Mauritania, Mali and Senegal. And if the route feels classic, it will be not classic because we will have a lot of surprise and the race will be tough and difficult for all the competitors because we will have more dune crossings than ever, and the navigation will take a great part in the race.
Scrutineering and documentation will be in Barcelona before a prologue stage on New Year's Eve. Over the next 17 days, the rally heads into Morocco, through the Sahel and into the depths of the Sahara before a rest day at Attar. From there, the entourage crosses the Mauritanian wilderness en route to the Republic of Mali and a traditional finish near Dakar on January the 16th.
Here, let's look. Stage one of this year's event taking place today. A long road section tomorrow. 950 kilometers takes us down to Granada. Short stage on the 2nd of January before a daytime crossing over into Morocco. Once we're into Morocco, we're going to be climbing over the top of the Atlas Mountains. From the capital city of Rabat, we then move on to Agadir as we go further and further south, then across the border into Smara, and that is where the sands and the dunes await. It'll get hotter and more barren once we get into Mauritania, where there's going to be 6 stages plus a rest day at Attar. A looping stage the day after the rest day. We go back to Tachika, to Kippa, and then as we go into Mali, it gets a little more verdant. A return to Bamako, a venue we visited 12 months ago. Then we go back up to the north as the roads get a little bit more narrow and the water gets more and more abundant until, of course, we're into Senegal and we reach Dakar itself. 16 stages, 5,565 miles. Barcelona, capital of Catalonia in the northeast of Spain, a city full of culture and energy. It hosts the start of the Dakar 2005. The Olympics were here in 1992, but this is a city completely obsessed with sport. Just look at its football club as a prime example. It is the perfect place for the Dakar to start from. Whether or not it's the cathedral, or if you're walking up and down the Ramblas, or you're experiencing its nightlife. Where do we go from it all? Right then, onto the bikes. The KTM Gauloise squad, Cyril Desprez, podium man last year, Alfie Cox, former podium man on the Dakar, and Fabrizio Mioni, 2-time winner. He said he was going to retire 12 months ago, but it was too tempting. Cyril Desprez saying, I don't want to have too much pressure. What I like is just riding out there in the desert. I just love competing. The Dakar is really the best chance for all of these things. I'm really looking forward to the start here. I want to have fun, and because of that, I've forgotten a bit of the pressure and everything else surrounding me. But for sure, I want to do well. All of the KTM riders carry a memory of 3-time Dakar winner Richard Sankt, who lost his life in early October.
Looking for us, and the biggest problem is if we make a mistake, he's going to be laughing at us. And
Sankt will certainly be watching. KTM Repsol squad made up of Isidre Estreve, Mark Coma, who was a very, very strong chance of another podium slot, or maybe even more, together with Giovanni Sala in the orange corner. Nani Roma, winner last year, He's moved over to four wheels, but he's been back and to wish Echteve good luck. He says, I really hope that we'll have a good result, thanks to all the work we did over the year, all the training and the management from Jordi Arcarons. I really think that we can be right up front, do a good race, and hopefully win the Dakar. KTM Red Bull USA, made up of Scott Harden, Kellen Walsh and Chris Blaise. Two of them are rookies, but Scott Harden's done it before. The 21 and 22-year-old rookies with Walsh and Blaise are going to be very, very quick. They're very quick on the Baja 1000 in California. Watch out here in Dakar. The Yamaha two-wheel drive single entry with once more David Frétigné out of Yamaha Motor France. He won numerous stages 12 months ago. That is a 450 and it's quick. Frétigné saying, after my good results last year, I know that a lot of people will look to my performances this year. I want to prove to everyone that I'm a really good rally raid rider. If I can win stages this year, I'll do it, but I don't want to go too quickly and make mistakes. I'm still in a learning phase. Jacek Czakor and Marek Dabrowski representing Poland. He went well last year, regularly inside the top 10, whilst world champion rally raid rider from 2004, Pal Anders Ulavaseta, is all in green. He'll be top 5, no trouble at all. The quads, of course, return. Three-time winner Richard Sank lost his life on a round of the FIA World Cup this year in Egypt. It was a massive loss to the sport of rally raiding, and in respect of this, there will not be a motorcycle with the #1 plate this year on the Dakar. Richard Sank. Richard Sank appeared for the very first time on the Dakar in 1995. A Honda two-stroke was the motorcycle underneath him then. Then the year after, he finished in 5th overall, this time on a KTM. He really had arrived. In 1997 and 1998, he unfortunately retired. But then in 1999, with BMW, he wins the Dakar for the very first time. The number 12 machine was the machine to have, and the ultra-cool Richard Sank, the absolute best rider on the day. The Munich manufacturer happy. He said it's a dream coming true, but unfortunately I still can't realize it's true. Those were days back in 1999. Then in 2000, with the #1 plate, again with BMW, he won for the second year in a row when the rally went from Dakar to Cairo. Switching back to KTM in 2001, he retired just before the rest day in Attar, the engine blown. In 2002, again with KTM, he's third. Fabrizio Mioni was the victor, Alfie Cox was second, Richard Sank third. Then in 2003, en route to Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, and Richard Sank flew over the flatlands, flew over the dunes to clinch his third Dakar Rally victory. Even if it's my third victory, I still feel the same emotion and happiness as the first time. Last year, he finished second behind Nani Roma. Unfortunately, Richard Sank no longer with us. Your memory is with us. The Telefonica Dakar 2005. It's underway. The first few kilometers. A small stage along the seafront, not far out of town of Barcelona. A road section of 27 kilometers, a short special stage of 6, and then a few more kilometers back into town.
Welcome to you all. Bienvenidos.
First thing though this morning, a drivers and riders briefing, but a minute's silence for all in the Asian region after the tsunami. A few hours later, helmets on, gloves on, lucky mascots, and brand new motorcycles, cars were on the seafront. The start of 5,565 miles, leaks and all. Sidecar number 250 from Switzerland, an Aprilia-based machine. Some people, though, didn't have far to go. Watch this. Not even out of first gear, and your first crash on the seafront. However, you better watch out for number 12. That's David Fretinier on the Yamaha Motor France entered 450 two-wheel drive machine. Does he chuck this thing about? He really is so quick across these relatively short stages, particularly when the ground is soft and boggy. His second Dakar for himself and the machine, and another stage victory, this time by 8 seconds. Second on today's short 6 kilometer stage, Cyril Dupre. Not with a 450 Yamaha, but with, of course, a 660 single-cylinder KTM. The Frenchman third. Eric Verhoef out of Holland, once more carrying his familiar number 29 number. The amiable Dutchman getting a brilliant result. Third position on the stage today. Good start. Good day for the Dutch, because right behind Verhoef was number 153, Arjan Brewer. A lowly start number, but he's right up there. What another result here. Kellen Walsh, the rookie American with KTM Red Bull machine number 21. He finished in 5th. The sidecar of Sandro Lanaro got to the finish in 88th position. Others, well, they struggled. Two-time victor of the Dakar, tall, lanky and strong, Fabrizio Mioni on KTM number 4. He finished in 7th position, while Pal Anders Ulivaceta 9th. The reigning Rally Raid world champion. Good solid start. Isidre Esteve Puyol in the local colours in front of the local crowd. He was 11th, some 42 seconds back of Frétigné. Dupre and Cox left the start, but Cox had a crash and in fact lost relatively masses of time. He finished 49th on the stage, plus 1 minute 39 seconds. Back in a stage 1 in 4 minutes 11 seconds by Frétigné. Mr. Unlucky, Giovanni Sala broke his clutch, and even he struggled to push his KTM over the damp sand. Mark Coma and Isidre Esteve came to the rescue. They dragged him over the finish line. Not sure if that's quite allowed, but he finished in 183rd place. So a quick recap of the two-wheeled results today. David Frétigné scorching through the stage ahead of Dupre, Verhoff and Brewer for Holland, Walsh in 5th for the States. Winner Frétigné here saying, I was very surprised by the stage. The sand was very, very soft, with a lot of jumps in it. The front of the bike was deep into the sand. This took a lot of the power away. Of course, it's only a 450. It's difficult to control. But I tried to race well. At the end, I overtook some other bikes and had to be careful because some people felt in front of me and were on the ground. It was difficult to avoid them. I had to concentrate hard. Cyril Dupre saying, I just needed that, a few minutes competitively on the bike to just get it over with. I've not been on the bike for a month. I don't really like that sort of stage that we've just done, but we don't really have much choice. Second in the stage, it's not bad. Eric Verhoff saying, good test, it's more difficult than I expected because there were a few jumps, because of the speed of the bike. Stage 2 of the Telefonica Dakar 2005, January the 1st. Happy New Year to you all. The organisers giving a little bit of respite to the competitors. No competitive special stage today, but some massive mileage involved. 920 kilometres from Barcelona all the way down to Granada. Dawn, January the 1st, 2005, Barcelona. The first few riders walking into Parc Fermé to collect their motorcycle, which will be their home for the next 16 days. The Dakar is cruel, even from the very first yard. People limping in, people apprehensive even at 950 odd kilometers to complete. Other people, well, they'll be looking forward to even getting the bike started. And while some people had an early night, some people, it seems, just haven't stopped from New Year's Eve. Happy New Year, and may everybody get to Dakar safe and well, says this competitor as the fountains were turned on. What a venue to have a Parc Fermé for any sporting event, let alone the Paris-Dakar. As Patrick Zanaroli, the guy who makes the route for the Dakar, sees every single competitor, bar none, over the starting ramp this morning. The Catalan flags were out in front of the locals, whilst other competitors were, well, they were making it snow and celebrating New Year in a different kind of way. Happy New Year to everybody, good health to you all. David Frétigné, the victor of stage 1 of the Dakar 2005 with his 450cc Yamaha two-wheel drive, left the ramp, but the biggest applause of all was kept for Mark Coma and Isidre Esteve, the hometown heroes. Cyril Dupre riding Gaulois KTM number 2. Looking forward to the long ride.
Happy New Year to everybody in Barcelona and to all the other competitors.
Number 100, Britain's Patsy Quick, giving everybody a New Year message before the big long ride down south. Well, others were getting a little freestyle. Ricky Carmichael, there's nothing you can't do. Cyril Dupre and Alfie Cox, though, decided to go together. Really very serious. The sidecar outfit, number 250, the Swiss Aprilia sidecar, all that way, 950 kilometers, but at least at the end of it, there were 100,000 people waving to all of the competitors and some very, very weary backsides as well. What a warm welcome on a very cold New Year's Day evening. I think he deserves a medal already. Quick recap after day 2 of the Dakar. Frétinier with that lead of 8 seconds. That is, of course, the result of the stage yesterday. Gaulois KTM have got Fabrizio Mioni, the Dakar 2001 and 2002 winner, part of the squad. Last year he wanted to stop, but he's back again. 3 years he had on the V-twin 950. He's back on a 660 single. He's 47 years old in his 13th event. He says, my goal is not to win, but just to finish this rally. The most important thing to do is to get to the end without having any problems or accidents. It's going to be really the last Dakar of my career. I want to have fun, have a lot of pleasure on the bike. Cyril Dupre was 3rd last year after making a few small but costly errors. As a result, he can be considered as a favourite for victory after his 2nd place in 2003. I'm very proud and pleased to be in the same team as Fabrizio Mioni for the first time in my career. He's someone who has caused me many troubles in the past and still causes me some, as he is sometimes quicker than me. I'm now able to win the stages ahead of him, and this makes me happy. Mioni, he's a big guy and for sure a favourite for this year's Dakar. South Africa, though, is cheering Alfie Cox. He's finished 3rd and 2nd in years past. Can he pull it off this time out? Repsol KTM, that's the Spanish team. Alas, without 2004 winner Roma. Their riders this year are Isidre Esteve, Mark Coma and Giovanni Sala. Esteve can be considered as the leader of the Repsol squad. He's 32 years old. He's done 8 Dakars and only retired once. 4th in 01, 5th in 02. He says there's no real leader in the team, but Mark Coma and myself, we are riding for the win without taking care of anybody else. The 3rd guy, Giovanni Sala, is here to help us if we have any mechanicals. Mark Coma is on his 4th Dakar. He retired last year, but got 2nd places in Tunisia and Morocco since then before winning the Baja España. Coma saying I had a fantastic prep for this year. During all of 04, I did a cross-country world championship. Good training for desert riding, particularly with navigation. It's difficult to be so well prepared for the Dakar. Racing other rallies is the only thing to do to prep up. Repsol KTM, looking strong.
Okay guys, welcome to the Dakar Challenge.
Red Bull KTM decided to choose 2 young American riders for the Dakar to join team leader Scott Harden. 6 riders were whittled down to 5 days of tests in the Dumont Dunes, not far out of Las Vegas. The riders had to be quick, but they were also tested on bike repair, navigation without GPS, and performance after sleep deprivation. The selection process was broadcast on US TV as a precursor to the Dakar itself.
We were looking for speed,
experience. Most of all, though, intangible quality of just a strong heart and will is the most important. As we said, we wanted to find someone that on any given day in Dakar, you can find 1,000 reasons to quit, but you must find one reason to keep going.
The USA is never an outright winner of the Dakar. The goal of the Red Bull USA squad is to win within 3 years. The two riders selected for this year's Dakar have been Chris Blaise and Kellen Walsh. They've had brilliant experience on the Baja 1000 in California, and they are both quick and safe. The stars of the future are here today. Stage 3 of the Telefonica Dakar 2005. We go from Granada in Spain to Rabat in Morocco. A short road section before today's stage, which was just outside the city of Granada, some 10 kilometers of stage, and then a long road section, 557 kilometers, to make a total of 573 as we go into Africa. Just after dawn this morning, the sun appeared over the top of the mountains alongside Granada. Snow-capped mountains, indeed they were. Some of the Spanish helicopters put on quite a bit of a show. The motorcycles on the stage were running in reverse order today, so the slower runners went through first, and then we built up to the fastest man through the stage at Barcelona a couple of days ago, and that man was David Frétigné. He was last to the stage, but he put the gauntlet down last. He won the stage today, his 5th Dakar stage victory, not only the start of his 2nd actual Dakar rally. He had 3 stages, won last year, he's had 2 already this year. The Barcelona one, now making this one a back-to-back win. Running the bike with one-wheel drive, as he did on the beachfront in Barcelona. He now leads the rally overall. Alfie Cox was worried this morning about his shoulder after a big get-off in Barcelona a couple of days ago. 2nd on the stage, just 2 seconds behind Frétigné, but Cox is 22nd overall after that Barcelona mishap on stage 1. Frenchman Cyril Desprez was 3rd on today's stage. He's 2nd in the overall standings, just 11 seconds behind David Frétigné. It's worth pointing out, by the way, that David Frétigné is leading the motorcycle section on 12 minutes and 8 seconds. He's 14 seconds faster than the leading car at this point in the rally. Now here's a rookie. This is Jordi Duran, the Catalan rider with the Repsol KTM. 4th on today's stage, and doing a very good showing in front of, well, not quite his home crowd. We're down here in Andalusia, but at least he's in front of fellow Spaniards and jumping and holding it all together. Mark Comer, 5th on today's stage. He holds 6th position overall, reflecting his number 6 starting number. Tall and lanky Comer. Is he the rider that's going to take over from Nani Roma? Well, it will be seen. Here's our first look at the Aussie, Andy Caldicott, 6th on today's stage. He holds 20th overall. Teammate David Schwartz is 62nd overall as he attacks his very first Dakar. Carlo Dugavado out of Chile, fitter than ever is Dugavado as he comes into the Dakar 2005. He's 7th on the stage, 21st overall. Now here is Carrara, start number of 130, the Swiss rider, the fastest amateur on the stage today. He was 8th, what a run. 2-time victor Fabrizio Mioni, 9th today. He holds 4th as he leaves Spain and goes into Africa. Kellen Walsh, birthday today, he's 22 years old. The American is now 3rd overall, and as a rookie, sensibly finished 10th on the stage, so not as to be too high and too early on the road tomorrow when they leave Rabat. Isidre Esteve, 13th on the stage for the number 7 rider, and look at this jump from Eric Verhoef. 5th he is overall. Jan Winters, he holds 8th overall, even though he nearly came off. Palander Zulavasetter out of Norway, 9th overall, safely inside the top 10. Now remember Giovanni Sala, he had clutch problems a couple of days ago in Barcelona. He's up to 163rd overall. He just took it steady on the stage today. Problems today for a few bikes with electrical failures. Seems to have only affected KTMs, about 30 of them. KTM this evening have sent a private jet from Salzburg in Austria with many spare electrical parts to try and cure this mysterious problem that has curiously struck out of the blue. So then, today's stage, David Fretenier being victorious with the one-wheel drive Yamaha ahead of Alfie Cox, Dupre, rookie Jordi Duran. Overall, Fretenier leads by 11 seconds over Dupre and Walsh. Fretenier saying the stage was very good, some tight corners. I did a small test before the start and it was okay, but then when I actually got into the stage it felt different underfoot. They made the stage with a bulldozer and that actually made it very slippery. There were some small ruts on the run and a great deal of dust with many hazards in which to get caught out on. I was quick, but not too much because I didn't want to risk a very potentially silly crash here in Spain.
Today a lot better, yes. You know, I've had sort of like 2 days to rest the shoulder. Okay, yesterday was 900 kilometers on the highway, but I still have pain inside, but with some painkillers, and this special I felt really good. The only problem I'm worried about is in the thick sand when I have to lift the bike up, but at the moment I'm very, very happy, so I'm going to continue and for sure.
Still Dupre saying to begin the new year with such a stage is very good. At last we can finally race against the clock. Yesterday we did 900 clicks just sitting there at 120 kilometers an hour average. Today, of course, very different. Stage 4 today of the Telefonica Dakar 2005. We go from Rabat, the capital of Morocco, down to Agadir. A short road section of some 122 kilometers before the 123-kilometer special stage itself. Then 421 kilometers of road section to the finish in Agadir. Dawn this morning. The fog had descended overnight, and the fog was not going away as the icicles were literally falling off the helicopters. The locals saying to race director Patrick Zanaroli that we can organise everything for you here in Morocco. We can organise a warm welcome, we can organise a stage for you, but we can't quite organise the weather. Who can? Then race director Patrick Zanaroli on the telephone back to the start of the stage, ordering the organisers at that end of the special to let the bikes go in 2-second intervals. He says the fog, well, it's here, it's not going to go away, and of course the helicopters, they can't take off. That's a major safety issue for us on the Dakar, and if there's a problem with any of the competitors, then of course we can't get the medical helicopters in, so it's really a safety issue. Back at the start line, David Fretenier taking things steadily together with Mark Roma, Andy Caldicott, as they were all given the news that it was a non-competitive day on the Dakar, but just a long road section. Cyril Dupre saying, we arrived in Morocco yesterday, it was all very sunny, it was very warm, it was very green and pleasant, but now it's all been taken away from us. Never mind, we'll have another go tomorrow. Cyril getting his warm woolly back on. for the long road section. A total of 666 kilometres had to be covered today by all of the competitors in the Dakar. So for the second time in yet 3 days, a long road section without any competitive mileage was to be tackled. These pictures, of course, from later on in the morning, once the fog had lifted. The fog had crept in from the sea, and it was not being our friend today. Not for the first time that a stage has been cancelled on the Dakar. The last time it happened was back in 1994. David Fretenier going through your picture together with Carlo de Gavado. Two of the Americans going through. Scott Harden just leading through. And whilst it was Kellen Walsh's birthday yesterday, Chris Blace's birthday today. 24 years old he is as well. Happy birthday. Once they'd arrived into service, a relatively easy evening for the mechanics as well. Here we have two-time victor Fabrizio Mioni saying today not to run the stage is obviously a disappointment, but on the other hand it's not a big loss. It was only a short stage of 120 kilometres, and over the whole event 120 clicks, well, it hardly matters. The real rally will start in the desert. Tomorrow we'll have a kind of preview for that, and then we'll be into Mauritania, where of course the result will be decided. So the overall ranking hasn't changed for the last 24 hours. The overall lead obviously still in the hands of David Fretenier with his 450 Yamaha. The rest of the top 10, Coma, Duran, Vinters, Ulavaceta and Esteve Puyol. The first real stage on the Dakar proper after the token mileage done against the clock in Europe. Une voiture, one car. That was the lesson in the classrooms when the Dakar came through town. The children not only getting taught how to do the basics, but also having a chance to see the cars as they passed through right outside their classroom. It was a 123 kilometre stage yesterday, and then also a 421 kilometre road section to the bivouac in Agadir after the stage. So then we move on from Agadir to Smara. We move from the heartland of Morocco further and further south, and just that little bit closer to Dakar. A road section of 240 kilometres before a 381 kilometre stage, before then going into Smara. Total kilometres today, 654. The stage start this morning held under perfect skies, unlike the fog that descended over the start, but 24 hours earlier. Andy Caldicott on his KTM number 23 preparing, and so was David Fretenier. He says, this is our first real stage. It looks to be quick and stony. I'll try to be competitive right from the start, but that's not going to be easy because I think the others, well, they're going to pass me early on. I will try to stay with them, but my target is not to lose too much time before getting into Mauritania. Last year I lost too much time in Morocco, and I'm going to try and do better this time out. 10th on today's stage, Marek Dabrowski running with the Polish entered KTM number 11. He was top 10 runner last year, and he's doing not so bad so far this year. Chile's Carlo de Gavado, fully fit now in 2005. He's not really been fit for the last couple of Dakars. Silly little niggling injuries have meant that he's been hamstrung. But de Gavado finishing 9th today. Chris Blates, the rookie from America, running the Red Bull KTM. Good result, 8th position on his first big proper stage in Africa. He's done the Baja 1000, of course, but that's a big, long stage altogether. 7th, though, David Frétinier, running the single rear-wheel drive Yamaha, not running two-wheel drive. Are they concerned about the longevity of the front-wheel drive mechanics? Are they concerned about the power that it loses when the energy goes to the front wheel? Who knows? But he's opted to run just with rear-wheel drive. Frétinier 7th. Two-time victor of the Dakar, Fabrizio Mioni, the Italian, doing well. 6th position for him today. Big crash, though, for the Red Bull KTM number 16. Kellen Walsh having a big crash. He's out of the rally. Terrible news for the American. And very sad indeed after the good results that he was having. The Swiss sidecar crew, number 250. They're continuing with their Aprilia.
Wir hängen genau in den Staubwolken rein. Haben kein Gas gegeben.
And they're finding it difficult with the dust, as you can imagine. And as we've already seen with Kellen Walsh, he's out of the rally after hitting a big bump. And anything can happen to these guys. Isidre Esteve Puyol, though, didn't have any problems with the dust. He clocked a 5th position on the stage today. He may well be considered as the team leader for Repsol KTM, but has he got the sheer speed against strong runners such as Mioni and Depre? What about South Africa's Alfie Cox? Good result once more. He had a fright on stage 1. He really wrenched his shoulder on the short super special at Barcelona, but Alfie Cox clocking 4th position today. He may be short, but he's very, very strong and easily capable of yet another podium finish on the Dakar. 3rd today, Cyril Depre, the 2003 Rally Raid World Cup champion, the Frenchman, in touch with the leaders. And so was, as Depre goes through the mountains, and so was also Mark Coma, the tall, lanky Spaniard with his Repsol KTM, having a strong result. He's building his confidence on the Dakar, is Coma. And with Dani Roma now gone away from 2 wheels to 4, is this the next shining star for Spain on the Dakar? Coma 2nd today. So who won it? Place your bets, please. Andy Caldicott from Australia with his Motorex KTM number 23 clinches his first ever Dakar stage victory. Fellow Australian Hayden clinched a stage victory on the Dakar en route to 3rd position back in 1998. But that won't be at the forefront of Caldicott's mind. Good run. Stage victory number 1. More still to come. Last year he entered the Dakar with again a KTM, but Andy Caldicott getting Clive Town and Patsy Quick from the UK, still in the rally and doing well. They teamed up with other riders and had a good run through, whilst this bowler Wildcat was also in trouble. It had been over and over, and the Dutch crew were going to have a long afternoon as the shadows got longer and longer to repair the thing and get back in the rally. Fortunately, they did. And a mechanic's best friend, it's either a lump hammer, some tie wraps, or of course, what else? Duct tape. On board with Hans Becks once more, the former leader in the truck class on this year's Dakar, whilst the supply of duct tape was put to excellent use. It is a mechanic's best friend. What about this quad? Well, it was a quad. Other people had more fundamental problems with gravity, fortunately at a slow speed. This rider thinking once, if not twice, if not three times about how to get through the tricky section, but he was okay. This one, fortunately okay, even if it looked spectacular. A 5.8 from the judges. The trucks may be limited to 150 kilometers an hour, but there can still be big accidents. Elsewhere, more fundamental problems. Run out of fuel. And some kind motorcyclists giving a little bit of petrol to this car crew. Cheers, he says, as he tops up. So then, Andy Caldicott, victor on today's stage by 3 seconds. It matters little to him. He's won the stage ahead of Comer, Dupre, Cox and Esteve Puyol. Overall, Comer leads from Caldicott. Easily in touch, Dupre third, Cox and Esteve Puyol. Fabrizio Mioni sixth, Fretinier, Chris Blaise, De Gavado and Marek Dabrowski.
Really tough in the rocks, usual Morocco rocks that we come across here. It was very, very stony, so you had to be very, very careful, had to be fairly sure with the navigation, but I had a fairly good run with not too many problems, so it was okay.
What about your tyre? What happened?
It's the same tyre we actually had on yesterday, so it's done 2 days. That's sort of some of the things we have to do, not unfortunately being like the full factory riders. And I think maybe that just made it wear a little bit quicker. I was a bit concerned at the refuel that it may not make the distance, but it got here, so this is okay.
With Mark Comer, question second place today. Good day for you? Yes, he says, but I lost some time because it was very crowded, very busy at the refueling. They didn't give us the right time to restart. I really don't know what happened, but then I had a problem with my tyre too. Then the pace was very quick right to the end of the stage, but I'm happy to be here, considering when you look at my tyre.
Contento por haber llegado, porque cuando veo el neumático así, pues lo normal es que estuviera en la pista.
Next question.
Del problema de con Cyril estábamos hablando.
What about the refueling problem? He says, well, we spoke about this problem in refueling. We had 15 minutes neutralization, but they gave me the wrong exit time after 12 minutes. I don't know what happened, but it was the same for many other riders. So I don't know if we've lost 2 minutes or if we've gained 2 minutes or whatever, but we'll solve it soon. Today's stage from Smara to Zuarats. We go in to Mauritania and out of Morocco. A road section of 121 kilometers before another biggie. 492 kilometers of special stage just starting over the border into Mauritania. and then a short road section here to Zuarat. Dawn this morning at the stage just over the border into Mauritania. Concentration everywhere.
Una speciale in Marocco molto pericolosa, brutta, piena di pietre, piena di crepe nel terreno, e quindi per me non valeva la pena di andare forte. Oggi comincia la vera corsa sulla sabbia e quindi spero che vada tutto bene, anche se su questa pista proprio l'anno scorso ho ancora il ricordo del problema avuto con la mousse scoppiata proprio nella pista verso Atar, quindi quest'anno penso e spero che vada meglio.
The border of Morocco towards Mauritania, still littered with the odd mine in the odd place, but fortunately the track marked out. Right then, Andy Caldicott was first on the stage this morning from Australia, by definition of being the victor from yesterday. It was quick at the beginning, boy it was quick. 100 miles an hour for the riders for 1.5 hours flat chat. All the way it was extremely quick. Palander's Ulavaceta having a good run through the stage early on. De Azevedo from Brazil likewise keeping it wide open. Sanna, our first look at the Italian this year. He was doing well, likewise was Chris Blaise, having another solid run on his rookie event here in Africa. Mioni was concerned about his mousse. That stops the rear tyre completely going flat, but if it gets too hot, it can completely chunk the tyre. Alfie Cox from South Africa, he was fourth out of the starting blocks this morning, and therefore 8 minutes back of the first bike on the road. Cyril Dupre and Mark Comer were 2 minutes ahead of Cox, respectively, which therefore left Andy Caldicott from Australia to be first on the road. He could only look back and see where the others were coming from. And the answer is, well, it was Mark Comer who was going to catch him first, and he did. Comer made up 2 minutes. Then into the refuelling, a 15 minutes neutralised section for the riders to refuel.
It's very, very difficult with the wind. It's very hard to hold the course, and very difficult, but it's okay.
And what about visibility?
It's not too bad. Some places it is a little difficult with the dust, but mostly not too bad.
Caldicott from South Australia, a small town called Keith. It's his second Dakar, and he's had his first stage victory. Last year, the town really clubbed together a bit of money so that he could do the Dakar. Now KTM Australia have chipped in together with Motor X, and he and David Schwartz, his teammate, doing well. Andy, 6th on the stage, now 4th overall, even though he had this quick tumble. Teammate David Schwartz, 37th in the overall standings, he being a first-timer on the Dakar. Cyril Dupre here, podium man last year on the Dakar. Today, Dupre 4th on the stage, but he leads overall. Navigation, really his kind of thing. Kind of stage that really suited Dupre. Not that technical, but very, very difficult with the navigation. Dupre leads overall. Dupre having, of course, caught Andy Caldicott, caught him for 4 minutes. That was on the stage. Poor Andy Caldicott, really there to be caught. It was relatively easy for the riders to catch Caldicott, really like shooting fish in a barrel. Here's Mark Comer. Little lost he is at this moment in time. Second overall, only to Dupre, some 34 seconds back of the Frenchman. Here we have Fabrizio Mioni and Alfie Cox. Mioni third in the overall standings, only 1 minute and 15 seconds back of Dupre. Cox, a little further back, he's in 5th, 3 minutes and 20 seconds back. Here's Palander's Oliver Setter, second on the stage today, 7th overall. By the time everybody got to the finish, where it was not so quick, everybody all together. Alfie Cox wary though with his teammate Fabrizio Mioni towards the end of the stage. Mioni saying, I don't know if I'm going to get to the finish. My moose has gone in my rear tyre. Alfie there as a loyal servant though, also dropping back behind Mioni to see what the tyre was looking like. Mioni not going too quickly in case the beading came off the rim, and then he would have absolutely no chance. He made it just to the finish. Many of the riders finding it nigh on impossible. Clive Town from the UK struggling a little, whilst others nearly crested the dune, but just lost out at the top. Not the first, not the last. The difficult thing about when you get your bike stuck in the dune is to not dig it out. You've got to rock it onto its side, let the sand fall through the machine, and then get it back on its wheels. If anything is easier said than done, it's that. The trucks, they may be heavier, but they just seem to glide over the top. Other people got over the top, and then were very lucky to get away with more greater consequences. David Schwartz from Australia, the teammate of Andy Caldicott, struggling, but he's still in the rally. Other people nearly going end over end. But then, of course, the gentleman's agreement sign of a helmet at the top of a dune saying that there is a car the other side. Here we have Etienne Roulit. He's asking our cameraman if he's seen my brother, my frère. Where is my brother? He's number 174. But another crew has managed to find his brother Francois. The medical crew's helping him back on the bike, but that's still 160, 170 kilograms, if not more, of motorbike, and he travels about 3 meters and says, enough, it's over, I can't go on. He waits by the side of the stage for the broom wagon to arrive. That's the truck organised by the Dakar organisers to literally sweep people up. He says, the worst thing is that my brother continues ahead of me without my support. It's not the end of the world though, it's only a rally. Seems more than that at times. This motorcycle rider saying to our cameraman, I've stopped because I want a cigarette. Fabrizio Mioni being victorious on the stage though, even with that rear tyre problems, just ahead of Oliver Setter. Cox being faithful, could have won it probably ahead of Dupre and Coma. Overall, Dupre though leads by just half a minute from Coma. Mioni third, Caldicott now fourth, Cox fifth. Puyol, Oliver Setter, Frétigné, Dabrowski and Chris Blaise. Fabrizio Mioni saying, difficult day, the problem is the moose in the rear tyre. About 90 kilometres an hour, 90 kilometres from the finish, the moose went. The tyre was so difficult from then on in, I had to reduce my speed by about 30 kilometres an hour from then on in. I had to let the others go because if I went so quickly, it would have just completely exploded and touched the chain, maybe even taken the chain off. Difficult at the end of the day, but it all got done.
Ma ora adesso devo finire il lavoro e poi la giornata è fatta.
All of our set are saying very, very wind today, very difficult to find the best way. Made good navigation though I did on the stage. I quite like the sand with the camel grass. Good day overall. I'm very happy.
It was the real Mauritanian desert, and we've done it before up until the refuel, and then after the refuel it was a new piste, but a lot of camel grass, but really good in the sand, you know, very fast.
No problem with navigation?
Yeah, it was a big problem today after the refuel. It was not so easy to find your way, and Fabrizio made the best job out of everybody.
And then just as dinner started, there was a fire in the bivouac last night, a stray electrical spark lit by a piece of lighting. The tinder-dry surroundings went up, and in a moment, things were gone. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, only by the grace of God. The briefing was held a little later, and Dakar boss Etienne Levine quite rightly praising the ultra-professional job of the catering staff to have food being served within an hour of the fire. Today's stage, out of Zurat towards Tchit, a short road section, and then the biggie, 660 kilometres, count them all. Parc Fermé immediately after the stage finish, no service trucks allowed this evening into Tchit. The landscape gets more and more barren as we approach central and then southern Mauritania. Sandstorms this morning, in fact sandstorms all the way through today's stage for everybody on the 27th running of the Dakar. Overnight leader Cyril Desprez led off, but it was Fabrizio Mioni who was fortunate to still be in the rally after those tyre problems yesterday when he was victorious on the stage, but 24 hours ago. Here he is riding with Palander's Oliver Setter. Remember, he's the 2004 World Cup Rally Raid champion. The Norwegian in green, having a good day though. Oliver Setter coming home in 7th position on the stage today and 7th in the overall standings. Many of the front-running motorcycle riders riding all together on the stage, staying together, making up time. They're all starting 2 minutes apart from each other, not starting 20 abreast as was originally written before the stage got underway. Here's Mioni in the middle of the stage. Now he's saying, I'm surely going to get penalised because I was out of the corridor that's within the stage. That's 3 kilometres either side of the centre line, and the organisers made that rule for the Dakar. I think I've strayed a little too far, maybe strayed a little further than this escaping desert fox. Well, who would be the foxy one of all the riders? Who would be the sly one out there on the stage? The answer is, it was David Frétigné who rocked up the winner of today's stage, the Yamaha 450cc rider, winning today's stage some 3.5 minutes ahead of eventually Mark Coma. Now Frétigné started quite a bit back, and all he could do was make up time on these other riders. The other front-running riders all running together on the stage, which meant that they really couldn't break away from each other. If somebody tried to go, well, the others were there. Frétigné being victorious on today's stage from Mark Coma in 2nd place. Cyril Desprez was 3rd today, some 5 minutes and 20 seconds back. He has now lost the overall lead on the Dakar to actually Mark Coma. Coma leads overall from Cyril Desprez. There is a tie, a tie for 4th position with Alfie Cox and Andy Caldicott, the South African, whose birthday it is today. 5 minutes and 39 seconds back, tying 4th overall with the Australian Caldicott. Chris Blaise from America, 10th overall after today's stage, but a very, very difficult stage for everybody. Alfie Cox, the birthday boy today, he soon got on the phone once he got back to the finish to wife Hazel and son Bradley. Here we are at another refueling stop. Cyril Dupre saying there must be some mistake. I've got to take only 20 litres of fuel, and that's really not going to be enough. We've still got 260 clicks to go to the end of the stage. In very soft sand, the consumption, the fuel consumption, is going to be about 50 litres per 100 clicks. We just can't get to the finish on only 20 litres. Now here's another big crash. One of the motorcycles being actually lifted up and out of the stage by one of the official helicopters. That's one way of getting out. KTM Red Bull squad of Scott Harden, Callan Walsh and Chris Blaise soldiering on. Here we have Chris Blaise, as I said, 10th in the overall standings, which for a rookie and a youngster is just unbelievable. Well done, Chris. Andy Caldicott keeping in touch, keeping his 4th position overall with a 5th position on the stage today. The last 200 kilometres was just camel grass, camel grass, camel grass. In fact, it was about 260 kilometres. It took them 4 hours to do the last 260 clicks. First gear, second gear, third gear, second gear, first gear, up and down the box, up and down the box. It was a killer, but it was number 12, the Yamaha Motor France entry of David Frétigné, French enduro hero and a man with total motorcycle control, lightning reactions, and this is the kind of terrain that really does suit not only Frétigné but the lighter, more nimble 450 Yam. He's 6th overall. That's his 3rd stage victory in 2005. Frétigné leads overall. Problems for one of the official vehicles. As you can see, stuck in the sand. Already had problems. The sand, ironically, a little moist out here. At the beginning of yesterday's stage, 186 motorcycles started it, and this was one of many to go out. Fortunately for this rider, the medical crew's immediately on hand. A big mess made with the motorcycle. Jose Manuel Perez from Spain, a big off. The helicopter doctors immediately on the scene as fellow competitors wishing him well. And immediately the medical assistants whisking him off to the end of the stage and the safety of the field hospital. We're on board here with Eric Krokolos. As you can see, going over the dunes, they're so difficult because you just can't really see what's the other side. One rider goes one way and Eric going the other. He says, where is he going? A lot of sand. A lot of sand. He's looking around, he's looking around. And then inevitable happens. Disappears behind the dune off the helicam. And then as the dunes get softer and softer, whoa, the front just goes in. And it's his first crash of the day, he says. Fortunately, only a small tumble. It makes me think about my rally. Oh, his friend Gilou on the similar Euromaster machine. That's what makes us a team. We both fall in unison. Can you imagine 660 kilometers such as that? This is one of the trucks that's gone over. Fortunately, the broom wagon being able to wrench it back onto at least its side. That's one of the Estonian service trucks that has taken a tumble big time. This guy's saying, I'm just trying to get the bike back onto its wheels, but I've hurt my back. Really injured. I think that's it. I think I'm not going to go any further. People absolutely banjaxed beyond all measure of even their imagination. This guy having a clutch failure. So they're taking all of the clutch plates out of the machine and gonna get on and fix it. Just to put things into perspective, at about this time, at the end of the stage, there may be only about 35 or 40 bikes actually having crossed the finish line. And the finish line from here was miles away. And when I say miles, whilst Clive Town from the UK attending Patsy Quick, getting the bike alongside so that they can jump the batteries one to the other, and then Patsy's bike.
No batteries. Every time I have to jump start it.
Every time they've got to jump start it. And some of these KTMs not having a kick start. And then the thing gets bogged down. Asking our cameraman, can you please give me a push? And strong Patsy getting that bike back onto its wheels, continuing with her, what she hopes to be, lucky number 100, the same number that took Hubert Auriol to victory. Shaft somehow engaged.
It's tough because each leg is very, very, very long, and you lose a lot of energies, and you lose concentration, and that's the way, because the car is so hard. It's really the last adventure in this world.
Other people deciding to take a bit of a break along the side of the stage. He says, I'm going to come back to Dakar. I want to live there one day. I want to somehow get there. And then they're getting their emergency blanket out. Gold, the best reflector of heat and energy known to man. And they're making a little bit of their own bivouac somehow between the two machines. In this part of Mauritania, a little bit of rain and they go down. It's going to be a difficult day for the latter runners, but Frétigné was the quickest of them all to be ahead on the stage of Coma, Dupre, Cox and Andy Caldicott. Overall, Coma takes that overall lead by just a smidgen, 16 seconds ahead of Dupre, Caldicott, Cox, the birthday boy, and Mioni. Sixth is Frétigné, Oliver Setter, Puyol, Sala and Kellen Walsh. The victor of today's stage from France, David Frétigné, saying today very, very difficult. So much camel grass. It was difficult to do the race really quickly. It's also so hard to be quick on the stage, so hard physically as well. Nothing is so difficult as camel grass. Again and again and again. In the end, I just want to see it simply just go to hell. All day long, I was with the others, such as Caldicott, Esteve, Puyol, Sala, etc. I asked myself how I was going to break away from them. I felt pretty good physically. I drank a lot of water, and then I said to myself, right, go flat out, flat chat. We'll see what will happen. And then they arrived just behind me just now. Beat them by about 7 minutes. Good day.
It was very tough, so much sand today, and lucky with the navigation was very easy because it was just about a straight line and I had the other marks to follow, so navigation was no problem, but it was very tough, and then all the camel grass at the end just made it very difficult.
Yeah, it's been a real day of the Dakar for sure. I think today a lot of guys are going to spend some time in the night coming out.
What was the most difficult bit behind you?
Just the camel grass. I mean, it hasn't stopped all day. 600 kilometers non-stop.
Why is camel grass so difficult?
Just there's no rhythm. Up, down, you can't go. second, third gear, first gear, second, third gear, flying in the air.
Sorry. Okay, thank you very much.
Bah voilà, 9h30 de moto.
Cyril Dupre saying 9.5 hours of riding on the bike. It's exactly as if you've been training in the gym non-stop. 9 hours. Very, very physical. Just to remind you, 137 cars started yesterday's stage, and as of the time of this broadcast, only 81 have arrived. Here's Jean Brucy, and even he has got no strength left to keep that motorcycle upright. So this was at twilight last night. Other people absolutely desperate to get water down them. Getting water, getting a little bit of food, and other people saying, well, it's just maybe even too hard.
On n'a pas eu galère, une fuite d'huile et pas de temps.
It's finished, he says. It's finished, says this car competitor. Word coming in from many of the drivers out on the stage that it was just like a graveyard. Everywhere they went, there were bikes everywhere. Astrid Pichigran saying there's a problem with the GPS, but even then it says that there's 300 kilometers still more to go. And other people staying en masse. Look at that sand, look at the wind, look at the dust. Can you imagine a night out in the desert? Astrid continuing saying, although she's tired, I'm happy because I'm here, but it's so dirty out there. The trucks were almost running us over, absolutely crazy. I was trying to grab a little bit of sleep on the side of the stage, on the stones. Crazy. Trucks everywhere. Some people, though, just getting delirious. 186 bikes starting the stage yesterday, 40 of them still in the stage as we speak.
Drive like this, but it's okay. We don't have any problem, and we study. I think our strategy good until now. We finished third here.
Nasser Al-Attiyah currently fourth in the overall standings, some 23 minutes behind the overall leader. Only a minute and a half covering second, third and fourth in the car section at the moment. Now here's Eric Verhoef. Get a load of this.
I had a great day, but at CP2 I only get 20 liters of fuel, which is ridiculous. I pay the full price. On the first CP it's only 150 kilometers to the next one. I think less. And I say, I need more to make it finish. No, only 20 liters, Mr. Zaniroli says. Well, he's crazy, because I can't make it with 20 liters. I was in the middle of the desert with no fuel.
That's one of the overriding problems in the last 12 hours, the problem of fuel at the last control point. That's the word coming in from the drivers, the riders and the truck drivers. And whilst others were grabbing a little bit of dinner in the bivouac, others still out there in the desert. He says, at the finish, he says, the last 70 kilometers, so difficult. We're so very tired, but we've got here and we're going to continue. Position overall on his KTM 450 with support from KTM Australia. Well done to David as a rookie, and Andy, I can tell you, is doing a sterling job.
He wasn't shining down on me today, but we'll get there.
Patsy Quick giving a push off just to get her KTM rolling, and she does get it rolling. So today's stage from Tichit over to Tajika, a regular route that's been done for about the last 20 years of the Dakar. Some big spectacular passes to be made, but the stage has been cancelled after the backlog of competitors still in the stage of 24 hours ago. The stage has been cancelled. It is only a road section. Dawn this morning. This is at the third control point. This is still 260 kilometers away from the finish. That's about 155 odd miles. And as the sandstorm got greater and greater with its ferocity, the guy who made the route, Patrick Zanaroli, on the satellite telephone back to base saying it's not possible for us to move at the moment. We're going to wait for about an hour or so, see if the sun comes up, and maybe the weather conditions are going to be a little more favourable. We will wait and see. The broom wagon arrived, the ominous sign of the very last vehicle to literally sweep people up off the Dakar stage, as then the helicopters decided it was safe enough to take to the skies. Only 2 helicopters making it to Chit 24 hours ago, the rest of them being grounded out there in the stage. And just as the camels do, they travel in a caravan, so did many of the amateurs with their motorcycles. They all stuck together. Their provisions may have been low, but the sand in their boots was high. He says, we've got no fuel, no food, no drink, nothing. We chose to sleep here all together and wait till dawn. But there's still another 150 kilometers still to go. He says, well, we're okay now, but last night it was just hell. The storm was so cold, it was so windy, and then it rained. Absolutely unbelievable. The cold, that was the hardest thing of all, but you've got to give him credit. Look at the smile on his face, fair play, as he gets going. As many of the competitors swamped round a very, very welcome breakfast. Other people grabbing what little sleep they could get. Here is Etienne Levine, the boss of the Dakar, saying, at the moment we've got 90 bikes in, 53 cars, and 25 trucks. The second problem, though, is that the helicopters cannot get into the air. The conditions now are worse than they were last night. And when we've got this kind of problem, we think it's only reasonable that we stop today's stage.
I've been here 7 or 8 years now, and it's the same. We've had this before. Nothing has changed. It's a typical, very tough day of the Dakar, and normally always before the rest day. I don't know if it's a normal procedure, but more than 50% of the field is gone by the rest day, and that's exactly what happened yesterday.
Continue that they did, but still, at the time of this broadcast, 40 bikes still in the stage, 46 cars still in the stage, and 22 trucks still in the stage, contemplating what it could be like out there on 2 wheels. And the answer to that is this. This is pictures, these are pictures from people still in the stage from Zurat to Tichit. These guys are nearly 48 hours. So just a recap, overall, Mark Comer continues to lead by just 16 seconds from Frenchman Dupre. Ozzy Caldicott from South Australia, from the town of Keith, in 3rd position, equal with Alfie Cox from South Africa. 5th overall, Fabrizio Mioni. Then Fretigny on the 450 from Ulavas in 6th. That didn't mean that people had an easy ride, though. They still had to complete the mileage, not against the clock, from Tichit to Tajika. We're here in the depths of Mauritania, and seemingly in the depths of what seems to be a week-long sandstorm. It really is not going away. The sandstorm prevented some of the aircraft taking off yesterday, so therefore the whole of the Dakar was split up. Half of it remained in Tichit, whilst the competitors continued on to Tajika. The KTM Red Bull USA squad, Chris Blaise, Kellen Walsh and Scott Harden, relaxed, as so did South Africa's Alfie Cox with a massage. Other people calling home with the now seemingly everywhere satellite phone. Other people into Chit, never been so happy to get hold of a wet wipe in all their lives. But they got stuck in a small celebratory glass of wine, and then they installed the road book for the stage, which of course had started nearly 12 hours earlier, to Tajika, but they got on their way to make sure they were with the rally. Today's stage, a short road section from Tajika to Attar before the main stage itself of 361 kilometers. All the way to Attar. Sandstorm continued this morning at the start in Tajika as the locals saw people off. Even the locals were wrapped up to try and keep themselves safe against the sands. David Fretenier, by definition, first on the road today after having won the stage from Zurat to Tachit. Look at that landscape. How hard can it get? It was difficult for Fretenier though, because although he started first on the road, there is a gap of 2 minutes between each rider behind him. That meant that Fretenier was really there to be shot. All the others could only follow his dust, follow his tracks and catch him up. Remember that the others being on 660s and Fretenier being on a 450 single, the others have just got the legs upon him. Fretenier tried to break ahead with his Yamaha ahead of those pesky 660 KTMs. The KTMs, though, had the strength. They soon caught him up through the soft dunes. They were all together, everybody. The leading 6-7 riders in this year's Dakar, all travelling as one great big, literal caravan out there in the desert. As Alfie Cox got roosted, David Fretenier then got stuck and roosted once more. Rooster your mate. Look how soft that sand is. Then David Fretenier got stuck in the sand momentarily. Look at that bike just dropping away down the other side of a broken dune. That sand so soft, almost like talcum powder, as they're paddling their way through, trying to get the machine going. And this is even before the first control points. Mark Comer started the stage, leading the rally overall, ahead of Cyril Desprez by a handful of seconds in over 18 hours of running. Andy Caldicott from Australia started the stage in third position, but it was all going to get mixed up once they had all travelled together during today's 361 kilometre stage. Then it got rocky towards the end of the stage. Comer, Fretenier coming through past your shot there as the sandstorm continued. At least it wasn't that hot, but then a defining moment. David Fretenier decided to go out on his own to try and find his own way. Would it be working for the Frenchman or would it backfire? The lighter 450 Yamaha nearly throwing Fretenier over the front of the bars, but if anybody's got motorcycle control on the Dakar, it is the Frenchman. A moment of solitude to work out where the hell he was going to go. Soon, though, they got to the refuelling, and it was Fretenier who had the advantage. The gamble had paid off, he says. I saw the track ahead of me, but it was slightly to the right. I saw them go to the left, but I went right. I was sure it was the best way to go. Absolutely sure of it.
J'étais sûr de moi, donc je préfère m'écouter, et je crois que j'ai choisi la bonne option.
Well, David, it did work. Here's Fabrizio Mioni. Now, Mioni eventually had a good stage. He finished up second on the stage. Won't tell you who won it at the moment, but Mioni finished up second on the stage. Well in touch with today's stage winner. Mioni now leads the rally overall. He's leapt up from 5th overall to lead. The winner of the stage, though, Esteve Puyol. coming home the victor this evening, Esteve Puyol from Spain. He's jumped up 2 places in the overall standings from 8th to 6th.
At the moment it's difficult to pull away. We're all on the same size motorcycle, so it's very difficult just to ride away in a straight line. Everybody has the same size engine, so sure, you know, Frétigny found a good way through the dunes, and yeah, he's a little bit in front, but I think it's very fast going home, and the smaller bike doesn't have a chance.
Absolutely right. Frétigny losing that advantage at the refueling for the motorcycles. How can we get an interview with Alfie Cox? Well, it's a 15-minute neutralised zone. In days of old, when it was just a free-for-all, it was a little bit chaotic and a little bit dangerous with all that fuel sloshing around, with riders tapping their wristwatches. Frétigny's gamble didn't pay off. He eventually fell down the order. He finished 15th today on the stage, 16 minutes behind the winner, Esteve Puyol. What a shame for the Frenchman, being so successful on the nimble 450 Yamaha, battling against the KTMs out of Mattighofen in Austria. Esteve Puyol rocking up the winner from Mioni. Palander's Ullavarsæter from Norway finishing 3rd today. Andy Caldicott from South Australia 4th. Alfie Cox 5th today. Giovanni Sala 6th. Here's Marek Dabrowski from Poland. He got an 8th position today. Dabrowski 12th overall. Here's Sala 6th today. He's 9th overall. Esteve Puyol, victor of today's stage, 6th overall. Tajika to here in Atar. Couple of quad bikers here, and getting a bit of Heath Robinson engineering in the middle of the desert. What are they doing? The answer is they're trying to get this quad off the ground so that they can alter the suspension, and they need to have the suspension hanging freely before they can alter it. Otherwise, as the rider says, the suspension was too hard and it was going to really hurt the chassis, really maybe even bend it, so we've had to opt to alter it this way. Eventually they did get it all sorted and they continued on their way. Another little story about this pair. The leading quad said that he had to keep going back regularly into the evening because the other biker kept falling asleep. He did it 4 times, just fell asleep literally at the wheel. Other bikers running into trouble, as is always been the case over the last couple of days. This German rider saying my bike has stopped about 10 times. I've got no battery left either, so I've been looking for other bikers to help me with some jump leads, but every time I do that, they seem to just burn and frazzle up. Something's wrong. So the Spaniard Esteve Puyol with his Repsol KTM being victorious ahead of Mioni, Ullavarsæter, Andy Caldicott and Alfie Cox. In the overall, Mioni leapfrogging up to the lead ahead of Dupre, Caldicott, Coma and Cox in 5th. Coma losing today the lead. Esteve Puyol 6th, Ullavarsæter, David Frétigny still 8th, Sala and then Chris Blaise, the rookie, in 10th. Esteve Puyol saying this is my first day without any problems at all. I started in 9th this morning, 18 minutes after the leaders, but I caught them up. A perfect day. A good way to gain some minutes. A good way to jump up the overall standings.
Fabrizio
Mioni today now the overall leader, saying a difficult stage. Difficult because it was stony, soft in the sand, and just before the first control point my second trip was out. I had to do a lot of navigation only with my GPS and just the roadbook sometimes. I prefer to take my own way without following others, but sometimes I had to go back and take a different route. And at last, though, I think I've done a good job with my navigation. At the refueling point, I repaired my trip, and it was then easier for the last part of the stage. I made no mistakes. Good stage for navigation, as only the Dakar can really offer.
Quindi poteva andare meglio, ma in ogni caso va bene, una tappa di navigazione
bella come bisogna qui alla Dakar.
Palander's Ulavaseta saying in front they made some mistakes with regards to the navigation. I caught them up. After that we were all together for most of the day. Then it was not easy to escape. We got lost a couple of times or so, but then we got back all together again. 17 aeroplanes and 9 helicopters. The Dakar comprises of a small airport every day that needs to be set up in the middle of nowhere. These are pictures from Tichit in the middle of a sandstorm with aeroplanes coming in port wing down a bit. It is not easy at all for the air traffic controllers. Up for other help from above. He says this is very, very difficult for us. Here we are on board with the C-130 Hercules that transports much of our TV equipment, landing on the dry lake bed that is Tichit. Difficult for even the most experienced of pilots.
Visibility this bad. We only saw the runway at about 1 to 2 kilometers, and that is very unusual. I mean, it's very difficult when you come down and you land, and only 1 kilometer before the runway you only see it because of the drifting sand. So landing itself is no problem. It's just getting to see the runway to land without any navigation aids. It's very difficult.
The right bearing of the
runway. There's no radar in many of these airfields. It's just done on GPS points and a lot of radio communication.
Nous avons des placeurs pour
he says we've got people to help
au sol et au stationnement des
all over the place. We've got very, very qualified people from Total to make coordination with regards to refueling, and also very professional air traffic controllers who help the pilots get the planes in the best conditions feasible. Many times, though, the situation is more critical. In the past at Tajika, there have been GPS points that have been wrong, and in years past a civilian airline had a crash at Tajika, but we make sure that we get the correct GPS points on the Dakar. There are up to 400 people travelling by plane. So then, today's stage, well, there isn't one. It's a rest day here on the Telefonica Dakar 2005. We stay in Attar. A welcome day's rest for everybody concerned. Well, it was a rest day for the competitors, but certainly not the mechanics or even the privateers who have to work on their own bikes themselves. Many of the privateers utilising the precious time. But there wasn't a rest day for the organisers of the Dakar. Here's Fabrizio Mioni. He was well revved up after drifting off the main rally route when en route to Tichit. Organisers gave him a penalty of 5 minutes. Patrick Zanaroli saying the rule is the same for all rally raids. It says you're not allowed to stray more than 3.3 kilometres either side of a straight line between each point on the route. We've had the rule for years, but we really couldn't control it. Now we've got the GPS though, and we can check on people. With Mioni, the route was curved and he cut the corner. Not on purpose, but it was very difficult out there in the sandstorm, and we're sure that he gained some time. The officials decided to give everybody a 5-minute time penalty every time they broke the rule. Mioni was still revving. He says it's very difficult to respect this rule because it's not a good rule in my view. It changes the spirit of rally raiding, and I don't feel good with that. Navigation has to be crucial in rally raiding. It's better to take risks out there in the desert, and that's why I don't like this penalty. At lunch today, though, things again changed at the head of the field after all of the riders dug their heels in. Zanaroli saying the judges have decided to reduce the penalties. Riders who went outside the corridor 2 days ago now have a 1-minute penalty, not 5, for every time they strayed off route. So therefore, Mioni still leads, but only by 55 seconds ahead of Dupre, Coma, Cox and Esteve Puyol. Still in with a shout, only 8 minutes behind. Palanzas Ulavaceta ahead of Fretinier. Andy Caldicott has been given 17 minutes penalty for speeding through a village a couple of days ago. He's ahead of Sala. Then outside the top 10, to Azevedo, Kellen Walsh, Chako, Dabrowski and Jean Brucy. KTM are dominant as expected, but there is still a fight within the Austrian manufacturer as to which team is going to rock up the winner come Dakar. It may come down to the very last stage. You better stay tuned. Cyril Dupre saying the main event of the year for us is Dakar. Usually the difficulty is extremely hard, but this year with 2 stages cancelled for us, we haven't been stretched too much, nor have a chance to make some difference in the overall standings. Well, Gauloi's KTM have got Repsol KTM right on their tail. Mark Coma has been the leader at one point so far on this year's event. The Spaniard may be young, but he's got many Dakars ahead of him. Will this be his first victory? He says, I'm happy with what I've done so far. Now it's the rest day, and still half the rally still to go. I'll keep it wide open and hope that I have a good result come the end at Dakar itself. KTM Red Bull USA have 3 riders still in it. Wily old fox Scott Harden pulled a muscle yesterday, but rookies Chris Blaise and Kellen Walsh are impressing, 10th and 12th overall.
I've learned a lot. That's the main thing. Just learned to be smart, made some stupid mistakes, and still learning. It's a good experience, and so hopefully I can finish and come back next year knowing a lot more.
Yamaha have decided to ditch their 2-wheel drive machine from last year, but that hasn't stopped Fretinier winning stages and being 7th, only 14 minutes off the lead. From a mechanical point of view, this little 450 is in good condition, even though I've attacked right from the start. Reliability is good, and I'm confident with the bike. This is how I'm able to attack the stages so hard without any worries with the machine at all. So after a rest day yesterday here in Attar, a looping stage of some 483 kilometers with some very, very difficult dunes indeed. Even the locals said it was going to be hard out there in the midst of a sandstorm. Dawn this morning over the bivouac, and sad news. Jose Manuel Perez, the motorcyclist that crashed on stage 7, was medevaced out to Alicante in Spain, but unfortunately he passed away this morning with his injuries. 41 years old, it was his 4th Dakar, and so sad to see him pass away. However, at 7:30 this morning, the rally continued, with Fabrizio Mioni being first off this morning, in the middle of yet again the same sandstorm. But before the stage had even got underway, for some people there were problems, and this is not the first kind of finger trouble problem you're going to see in this feed after today's stage, after the rebuilding of so many bikes yesterday. This is Antoine Morel. He's the only quad left in the rally. He says, this stage frightens me. I'm a little nervous about it here and now. Well, let's keep our fingers crossed for Antoine, being the only quad left in. He's only got another 7 days to go, including today, which is slightly easier said than done. Wouldn't it be brilliant if he got to Dakar? The locals this morning looked on to see the Dakar come through town before things really got into top gear. The Repsol KTM squad of Giovanni Sala and Mark Como going well. Giovanni Sala finishing 8th on today's stage. Absolutely Harry flatters over the latter part of the stage. But it was a game of catch-up. That was the order of the day. Mark Como managed to catch up Paul-Anders Ulvasæter from Norway, even though Como was a little on the ragged edge at times. Como finishing 5th today, saying, that was even close for me. Como now 3rd position overall, just over 16 minutes behind the overall leader of the Dakar here this evening, Monday. The Dakar finishes on Sunday afternoon, and can the Barcelona boy find those 16 minutes to clinch victory? The dunes were big, the dunes were massive, but most of all, the dunes were soft. That caught out many a person today, including Fabrizio Mioni. Mioni now, of course, obliged to take the single-cylinder KTM. No twins allowed anymore, except for 450cc capacity. And the big, tall, lanky, but strong Mioni managed to fight hard to try and get some time today through the dunes, but it was not to be. He eventually finished 2nd on the stage, some 10 minutes behind the stage victor. Mioni, though, losing his overall lead today. He's now 2nd overall, but only 9 minutes back. Can you imagine riding a motorcycle weighing well over 160 kilograms and full of fuel? It's about 45 kilos more, and then going over the top of a dune and it catching you up. Mioni so lucky to get away with that one. The broken dune, a rider's worst enemy. The route organisation said that the going was going to be 30% harder today than even they expected. And even then, when they laid the route out a few months ago, it was hard anyway. Fabrizio Mioni left the Dakar 12 months ago saying that it was going to be his last one, but he's back and out to win again. Giovanni Sala saying, I've only got a few litres left in my bike, and I've given 2 of them to Mark Como, who was right on the limit with regards to fuel consumption. It's my business in this rally to help him out, and I did it. Here, though, is the Hungarian rider. This is Ákos Forgó. He is the first ever Hungarian to get so far to be so successful in the Dakar, so well done. We're on board with him. He says, thanks to everybody at my local bike shop, thanks to even the guy who made the stickers to put them on the side of my bike. Thank you all so very much to help me get this far. And having said that, you can't believe it. The thing then stops. But he manages to get it going again, and he continues on with only just a few more days to go. De Azevedo from Brazil in 9th position on today's stage. De Azevedo 9th overall, just 1 place ahead of Chris Blaise from the USA, heading his teammate Kellen Walsh in 11th position. Here, though, was David Frétinier. He used the 2-wheel drive system on the Yamaha 450 for the very first time today. Trouble, though, for Frétinier. It made him 9 kilos heavier in the front end, and it really dug deep into the sand. Frétinier holding 6th overall. Alfie Cox from South Africa, 5th overall. He could not believe how soft that sand was out there. Cox, 5th overall, only 20 minutes back of the overall lead. Anything can happen from now on in. But it was Cyril Desprez who was the man who managed to be victorious on the stage and to continue to lead, to lead overall this evening. But sad news and bad news for the red, white and blue flag for Paul-Anders Ulvasæter. He crashed out of the rally towards the end of the stage. and he was helicoptered back to base. What's your feeling now you're out? Not funny. He says it's not funny at all. So Dupre victorious on the stage to lead over all ahead of Mioni. Puyol got third on the stage ahead of Fretenier with the two-wheel drive. Coma fifth today. Overall, Dupre has that lead over Mioni of 9 minutes 13 seconds. Coma third, Puyol fourth, Alfie Cox in fifth. Fretenier with the Yamaha then in sixth ahead of Andy Caldicott, Sala de Azevedo, Chris Blaise.
Game over now.
Anders Ullevarsæter out of the rally, says it's over now. It's the most stupid thing I've ever done. It was completely flat, and then I fell.
Au départ ce matin, j'étais parti 7e, 12 minutes derrière.
Still Dupre saying, this morning I started 7th, 12 minutes behind Esteve.
Avant toute chose, et c'est sûr qu'avant les minutes.
Good day for me. Before talking about ranking, though, I had good feeling on the bike at the beginning of the stage. It really did feel very good. I think that my Dakar really now does begin today. I'm happy to see this stage because it was relatively easy for me without being tired and worn out. I've got a good feeling.
Et vraiment bonne sensation, donc ça fait déjà plaisir. Bueno, salido primero.
Esteve saying, when I started this morning, I was alone for a long time. When we got to the camel grass, he only caught me and then we rode together. Before CP2, it was very technical though, through the dunes with very soft sand for us. It was far too difficult, but for us, so I don't know what it's going to be like for the cars. After CP2, it was very quick and Dupre caught us up. We finished together, and I think it was, all in all, a very good day, a good day for me.
Y bueno, creo que hemos impuesto un buen ritmo, ¿no? Porque los de detrás no han llegado y estoy contento por lo especial.
Mioni saying the stage was not very difficult for me today. I tried to keep a good pace, but I think that Cyril was very quick today, even though I was flat out as well. For this Dakar, all competitors are equipped with the brand new Sentinel system that helps bikes and cars to be passed by quicker vehicles from behind. Mark Liara from Sentinel explaining the idea is very simple. When a car beeps its horn, the bike riders regularly can't hear it. So what we've done is to put a linked horn system onto the bike too. This is the Sentinel box, about as big as a large cigarette packet. We got various switches on it, one that can make the sound louder or lower, together with alterations to the visual warning as well. In the car, the box is here. I can alter the level of the light and the sound too, as you can hear.
On s'aperçoit ici donc le flash lumineux, là je suis au volume le minimum, médium, maxi, et ici j'ai le buzzer qui envoie le son.
So for example, we're coming up behind a bike, I beep the horn and at the same time we transmit to the bike that I'm here to enable me to pass safely.
Et on passe, voilà donc dépassement en toute sécurité, on va dire grâce à la transmission à distance de l'information.
Obviously, when the system gets close, it links up. This is the reason why the Sentinel is on the machines this year. In the past, riders have been hit by encroaching vehicles, and Sentinel hopes to eliminate this in the future. The second advantage is that in case of a fall, you can put the system on constant to prevent another crash. And then every car which arrives will be able to hear the alarm, and therefore they can kill a bit of speed. After 3 nights at Attar, the Telefonica Dakar 2005 moves on to Kiffa. However, organisers changed very slightly the route late last night. It's now a shortened route only 400 competitive kilometres as opposed to the initial 656. At CP2, it's the new finish line. Fabrizio Mioni left the start line this morning in determined style. He only knew one way. Time was ticking away for Mioni to try and clinch the overall lead ahead of Cyril Deprez. He started less than 2 minutes behind Deprez in the overall standings this morning. And although the Dakar finishes on Sunday, he was keen to get an advantage. Navigation always his strong point. The flying 47-year-old was keen to get an advantage, pushing as always in only one way that he knows, 100%. Soon though, Cyril Deprez was with him, and although Mioni had caught Deprez for 2 minutes, the pair of them ride together. Through the villages, they were absolutely on the button with the 50km/h speed limit that, as always, was being policed by the GPS system. A neutralisation zone for every single competitor. No advantage could be gained nor lost through some of the villages today. The scenery got more and more spectacular. Surely this is what the bottom of the sea looks like. Unbelievable cliffs, unbelievable images once more on the Dakar. Then at the refueling point, a 15 minutes neutralisation point where everybody could top up and then continue on in the same order in which they arrived. Tragically, it was to be Fabrizio Mioni's last few kilometres. He had an accident at 184 kilometres into today's stage. David Fretenier and Alfie Cox immediately on the scene, alerting medical crews as to the problem, and within a matter of moments, the medical crews were on the scene. Unfortunately, nothing they could do. Try as they could, for nearly an hour, Mioni had passed away. David Fretenier continued with obviously heavier things on his mind. He had lost time, but that mattered little. Positions may be a technicality today. Fretenier 5th overall this evening in Kiffa. Now we catch up with Frans Verhoeven, the Dutchman. Start number 145, but having an excellent day today, finishing 7th. He's 16th overall. It's his first Dakar, but he's a professional enduro rider in France and also in Asia, and he's on a 450 Yamaha and doing very well today. And as the other riders continued, without the knowledge of the terrible news that had been left behind them, they found their way across countryside, approaching into Black Africa. A big day today, even though it was truncated somewhat by the organisers with the road book last night. Here's Cyril Deprez. He was second on today's stage. He continues to lead the Dakar overall by 14 minutes. Deprez weary, but still got the energy to get that 660 KTM back on its wheels. Dupre leading overall this evening. Mark Cover and Esteve Pujol second and third in the overall standings. Comer 14 minutes back of Dupre. Esteve Pujol 22 minutes back of Dupre this evening. Alfie Cox fourth. The sand again was soft. Esteve Pujol, the third position man, getting stuck in the sand, and he tried to get the Repsol KTM out, but it was not to be. And when Mark Comer looked behind him, he soon realised that Isidre needed help. Teammates working together, always in the desert. Mark Comer victorious on today's stage ahead of Dupre, Esteve Pujol, John d'Azevedo and Alfie Cox. Numbers not at the forefront of many people's minds this evening. Dupre leads overall ahead of Comer, Esteve Pujol, Cox and David Frétinier. Andy Caldicott, Sala and Brucey in 10th. So today's stage from Kiffa to Bamako, making up stage 12 of the Telefonica Dakar 2005. A short road section of some 25 kilometres before a big stage, 586 kilometres. It's a biggie. Then with another long road section of 208 kilometres at the end, a total kilometerage today of 819, a long way. The whole bivouac completely rocked last night with the news of the death of Fabrizio Mioni. Upon arrival into Kiffa last night, the top riders, whether or not they were pros or privateers, were taken to a quiet building to reflect upon the day's tragic news. David Frétinier saying there was really no apparent danger where he fell. He was gradually building speed on the stage. I guess maybe he was looking at his road book. There was just no reason to fall there. Some small bumps, but nothing. This is why I don't understand what has happened. He must have been looking at the road book, but then again the bike was heavy after the refueling point. 48 litres of fuel is a lot on the bike.
5 minutes avant, donc 48 litres d'essence, je crois, et voilà, le poids de la moto a fait qu'il n'a peut-être pas pu la récupérer.
Poor Frétinier was immediately on the scene when it had happened, and everybody was ringing home, making contact with loved ones the world over. Nani Roma, the victor on two wheels last year, saying he was a clever rider. I appreciated him so much. A good guy, a fantastic guy. And even if we fought out there on the stages, we were friends back here in the bivouac. When you lose a rival, it's obviously hard, but when you lose a friend, it is just terrible. He was a great man of this world. At the evening briefing, everybody congregated. Event director Etienne Levine asked for a solemn moment of silence. The whole Dakar caravan was joined together for one memory of Fabrizio Mioni.
So, as you know, we lost Fabrizio today. We asked you to all kneel and pray.
These people had breakfast with Fabrizio Mione only that morning.
Fabrizio n'est plus là, mais pour moi il est toujours là.
Fabrizio is not with us anymore, but I can feel him here. The Dakar will go on to Dakar. All involved here this evening, obviously very concerned about today. We have all been terribly affected by this.
Mais aussi dans la course auto et dans la course camion, où il avait des amis et des camarades.
Pendant toute la liaison,
Stefan Pederhansel saying, all the way through the road section, I was thinking about what we do to win these races and what we do every day to compete, what we do facing these risks. You know, I'm thinking about the tsunami when innocent people were just going about their daily business, but here, well, we risk things in motorsport, and that's something that we... But it's just so catastrophic when something like this happens.
Je dirais presque que nous, on cherche un peu à... On le cherche, tout simplement.
Last night, Etienne Levine, the event director, announced that today's stage for the motorcycles was to be postponed, and all of the bikes with their riders were to be flown to Bamako. Well, this morning the riders still had to get up early. There was no chance for them to have a lie-in. Many of them had brought their motorcycles to the edge of the flight pan so that the bikes could be immediately loaded onto the planes. It was a wake-up call, even though there was no competitive stage mileage for all of the 110 bikers still in the rally. We're now less than half of the riders in the rally as the number that left Barcelona. He says today we've got 3 rotations of Antonov 12 and 14s and 2 rotations of Antonov 74s. We're going to transport all of the 110 motorcycles in these planes. The riders will go in the planes that are normally used by the press, the staff of the Dakar, the TV people, etc. So, the Dakar organisers quickly loaded the machines onto the Antonovs, whether or not they were ridden or whether or not they were pushed. One of the stipulations, of course, was that the fuel tanks were literally only full of a thimbleful of fuel. The lone quad was loaded on, and Syl Dupre's bike was one of the last on. Then the riders had to wait until lunchtime, some of them just after lunchtime, for the planes to come back and get them as their motorcycles left without them. Then, after an hour and a half's flight to Bamako, the riders appeared off the plane. Mark Coma being one of them. Fortunately for the riders, the heat in 2005, certainly not as fierce as it was 12 months ago. It was 50 degrees Celsius this time last year at this very airfield. Today, it must be less than half. The riders soon set up camp. Some of them had the tents, and others, well, they just blew up their lilos and decided to take a pitch in the bivouac. The bikes, of course, were loaded off one of the other Antonovs, and very efficiently it was done as well by the event organisers. David Schwartz's bike from South Australia, soon being put into a holding pound before David came and collected it with teammate Andy Caldicott. Eric Verhoef's number 26 machine just going through your shot there. He's still going well. But with the Works Gauloise KTM team, Syl Dupre had written a big number 4 on his bike and used one of Fabrizio's stickers. Likewise, Jean Brucy having written his own memorial. So the overall standings obviously not having changed in the last 24 hours. Still Dupre still leads overall ahead of Mark Comer. Third, Esteve Puyol, Cox in fourth. Caldicott sixth, ahead of Sala, de Azevedo. Chris Blaise is a rookie, ahead of Jean Brucy in 10th. But what about the people outside the top 10? Let's have a look at them. Dabrowski, Chacor, Castello, Alan Duclos and Matteo Graziani. So, the Telefonica Dakar moves out of Bamako. We go west towards Caves. Today, stage 13 of this year's event, the biggest motorsport events on the planet. A long road section that started very early this morning before a 370-kilometre stage. A 93-kilometre road section back to the new bivouac this evening in Caves. A very early start for the riders to complete their road section this morning before the stage start. Look at the amount of people out there. Drama's actually starting first thing for Jean Brucy this morning. He came out of service before dawn and realised that his roadbook wasn't working, so he had to go back into service to try and get the thing fixed. Fortunately, he rode the road section very quickly indeed, and he didn't lose any time at all. He managed to get his correct slot on the start line. And as you can see, it was rather busy out there in deepest Black Africa. Well, Cyril Dupre, he, as the overall leader of the rally, has got it all to do into these last few 100 kilometres in a 9,000-kilometre event. And let us not forget that this is the first stage mileage for these motorcycle riders since the death of Fabrizio Mioni 2 days ago. The black armband, of course, on every rider today. No stage for them yesterday, so this is their first competitive mileage, and Dupre not having an easy time. He's got a bit of a dicky tummy, and it's proving not good for him. A very, very fast first 150 kilometres this morning. Then he had problems at the refuelling after a small crash. But he says, today I've got to try hard to be focused. I fell and the stone hit my exhaust pipe, and I've only really got one exhaust pipe now. It's strangling the engine. I've got to go a bit slower, but I think I'm just about going to be able to get to the finish. Nothing like a Swiss Army knife when you need one to hack apart a works KTM. Of course, if the exhaust is a little bit crimped, it's going to strangle the engine. The thing can't breathe. It's going to sound as noisy as hell, but that doesn't matter out there. They managed to cut the thing off to let the thing breathe, and soon Dupre getting back on the road. Dupre losing a little bit of time, obviously, with the problems, but still managing 7th position. He holds his overall lead this evening into Caves. But scenes very reminiscent of the 1992 Dakar rally, which actually went from Paris to Cape Town. One of the longest rallies that the Dakar has ever done, right from the top of Europe, right down to the bottom of Africa. Eric Verhoef continuing in the rally. He had a leak his radiator late last night and to repair it with some magic metal. Fortunately, didn't take long. We haven't seen much of Giovanni Sala on this year's rally, except of course on the very opening stage in Barcelona when he had those clutch problems. But Sala really working as a water carrier, as a flying mechanic, one could say, for the other Repsol KTM machines. Sala 10th today, 7th in the overall standings. Next up, one of his teammates. This is Isidre Esteve Puyol, who still holds 4th position overall, but it's very close for Puyol. He's only 27 seconds behind Alfie Cox this evening, and the South African has got to do a lot of work indeed to try and fend Esteban Puyol off. Here is Jean Brucy, number 9, the aforementioned Frenchman who had those roadbook problems first thing before dawn this morning when he realised that the moving notebook that's in front of them, just behind the number, there you can see the GPS system on the dashboard, and the roadbook wasn't working. He couldn't really tell which way the road went next. João Azevedo from Brazil, good for him, one of the best results on this year's Dakar. 5th position for him to Azevedo, once more holding a top 10 position overall. Here is Alfie Cox, a day from hell, he says. He caught to Azevedo in his haste to get past him through the dust. He nearly had it off, he banged his leg, and instead he just opted to stay behind him. What a good day though for Chris Blaise. He finished 3rd, 1 place ahead of Alfie Cox, the American rookie, 3rd on today's stage, only 3.5 minutes back of today's stage victor. 2nd on today's stage, David Frétigné. Frétigné not feeling so bad with himself, now he's back on a competitive motorcycle, but he had to concentrate a great deal. But today's stage went to Andy Caldicott from Keith in South Australia. Caldicott, his 2nd stage victory for he and his KTM in 2005, and surely many, many more yet to come. Caldicott holding 6th position overall. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th position overall, covered by 25 minutes in the overall standings. It's still tight. Now we're on board with Alain Duclos. He's saying, as he's coming through one of the many bridges at the regulatory 50 km/h speed limit, this is just a dream for me. I used to come and watch this rally come through this part of the world some 20 years ago, and for me to now be competing along the very road that I used to watch on is just absolutely brilliant. My father and I used to come and watch, and now here I am in the rally, and it's just the best feeling. Alain Duclos, by the way, who has ridden in the Dakar before, took a year off last year. He was the organisers. Now it's good to see him back on a bike. Good to see him 14th overall. So then, recapping the top 5 today. Caldicott victorious once more from Frétigné, Blaise, Cox and João Azevedo from Brazil in 5th. But the overall standings still have the fray at the head of it, ahead of Coma, Cox. But look how close it is. Cox only 27 seconds ahead of Puyol, 4th, Frétigné in 5th. Caldicott 6th, Sala, Azevedo, Chris Blaise and Jean Brucy.
Very, very dusty. Made it very difficult at times. You know, you were just sort of trail riding the dust, but I think everybody was really just aiming at getting through today and getting through to tonight, and not really riding at full pace. You know, it was very difficult to concentrate, so I think everyone was just looking at getting through here.
Second place today, David Frétigné saying the stage was very long, nearly 500 kilometres on an extremely dusty road. We started very easily, and we had a great deal of dust, making it so difficult to see anything at all. I started 11th, and it was not so easy to go quickly. The dust was just hanging in the air all over the road. There were small and narrow roads, but I caught 3 others. It was impossible to pass them, and then, of course, to get in front, to get to the whole head of everybody, to be the leader. So I preferred to do my own run today instead of going faster and faster, as I could fall and, of course, perhaps maybe even hurt myself.
I've got to hold my own race, and I had a good time today, and just being smooth, and it paid off.
How different is this from what you've been used to in the USA?
Well, everything up until now has been really different, but today we got in like the mountain roads, nice and twisty, and a few rocks in the middle, not too much, and then we opened up on some really fast roads, and that's what I'm used to, so I had fun. It was a good time.
We move on from Kays in Mali to Tambacounda into Senegal, the last country on the Dakar 2005. Stage 14 made up of a road section of 93 kilometres but still a long way to go. 529 kilometres is the distance of the stage, as the service vehicles went directly from Kays to Tambacounda, the easy way. A dusty dawn this morning for the motorbike riders after they had left the bivouac at Kays well before sunrise. But once the sun got into the sky, the heat really did start to turn on. Quite cool it was this morning, but that lack of wind meaning that the dust was just hanging in the air, and the slightest bit of it that was kicked up was not going to settle for quite a while. We're on board with Pascal Vigneron with the number 56 motorbike. We'll be coming back to his onboard shots throughout this broadcast, but it gives you some idea about how dusty it was. And look at this. Doesn't this helicopter shot just show you how difficult it is out there in the trees? He's not out in the bush, he's on the Dakar. Andy Caldicott from South Australia, two-time a stage victor on this year's rally. He started with a clear road ahead of him, and he managed to do well. He really enjoyed the twisty, sinuous parts of today's 529-kilometre stage with his KTM, but then the Australian ran into some problems later on. Fortunately, nothing too drastic for Andy Caldicott, but it did mean that it lost him 20 minutes on today's stage. Caldicott in 6th position in the overall standings. And the problem was, as he looks down, the problem was he'd blown a moose in the rear tyre. The moose had started to try and escape essentially from the rear, and he actually pulled off the road, managed to get the wheel off, get the beading off well before even the next rider that started 2 minutes behind him turned up. Now this is the infamous river crossing of today's stage. We're back on board with Pascal Vigneron, saying it's rather deep, or worse to that effect in French. David Fretenier deciding to get off the bike. Chris Blaise also having a, well, second decision halfway through the river. John D'Azevedo from Brazil, Mark Coma, with their differing styles, some playing it safe, some playing it cool and riding it through. Marshals from the Dakar organisation positioning themselves in the middle of the river, but the star of the day, well, one of them was Jean Brucy. He got up on the pegs and he kept the thing rolling and gained quite a bit of time through the river. Not that time is of the essence come this part of the Dakar 2005. This is the kind of river crossing that Cyril Dupre likes. He likes the technical stuff. He's not only doing Dakar, he's also doing Enduro through the rest of the year, and that is exactly an Enduro kind of river crossing. News filtered through that Cyril Dupre, the overall leader of the Dakar with the bikes, got penalties last night for speeding through one of the 26 villages with, of course, a 50km/h speed limit. His lead was whittled down last night to 3 minutes and 16 seconds after a 9-minute penalty. Now, we also saw yesterday the river crossing with many people getting into trouble as they tried to slip and slide not only their way through the river crossing but then out of the other side. And once you get water in an engine, you've got no chance. And even if the thing was running, some of them had rather a bit of trouble getting out. Not the lone quad though, he's still going strong, number 240. As other people, well, you can't believe it, middle of nowhere, middle of the desert, middle of Senegal, and you're doing a bit of Torvelandine and doing a bit of ice skating. But still the quad ventured on through the very, very slippery river crossing. Those stones underneath the surface of the water covered in the slime and making it difficult indeed. The KTM's got through, the Honda's got through. This particular Honda rider very happy indeed. Now we're on board with one of our riders through one of the villages. Look at the people. 50 kilometers now, that's about 30 miles an hour, the speed limit set by the GPS, and the organisers then immediately pouncing on the riders come the end of the stage and checking whether or not people had been speeding through the GPS. Even a dog got in on the scene as he kept his head above water like many or nearly all of the motorcycle riders, except this one. Oh, was he swearing in all sorts of languages as he went down. Now, the air intake for these KTMs is just behind the navigation, the GPS, so it's at the highest point possible on the bike, and that went in to the water. So, with the engine running, all it did was suck in not air, but water. The organisers giving the rider a bit of a break. If he wasn't hot and sweaty already, he was now extremely annoyed. Would it start? Not a chance. They tried to jump it from one of the service vehicles, and, well, the picture says 1,000 words. Water is coming out of where it should not be. But eventually he got it started, and that's another bike, sorry. So they tried to jump it from another KTM, and guess what? That didn't work either. With the air filter off, the water was being pushed up by that big piston. Eventually, though, the thing barked into life. With only 3 days to go on the Dakar, or more to the point, 2.5 days to go, he was happy and he was off. Back with Sil Dupre, a little dustier now, as he winds the thing up. And this is what speed's all about. Sil Dupre, Harry Flatters out there on the stage. 7th position for him today, losing 7 minutes on the stage, but he still holds his overall lead ahead of, well, the man chasing him, Mark Comer. In the overall standings, Dupre has an advantage of some 12.25 minutes. Big, tall Mark Comer with the Repsol KTM, keeping it wide open. He was chasing Dupre as much as he dare, but of course the animals were back out on the stage. The cows were out there causing many a problem. And we're back on board with Pascal Vigneron, urging the young calf out of the way. And, well, the cow really not taking much attention. There were cows, there were monkeys, there were goats, there were sheep, there were chickens, there were pigs. There was even a wild boar. But he was very interesting. Back with Pascal, he decided to come off the road to try and let another rider past. But in the end, he maybe bit off more than he could chew. Back, though, with the front runners, Chris Blaise, another 3rd position for the 2nd day on the bounce for the rookie American. He is still in 9th position in the overall standings. David Fretenier went like the wind, as only he knows how. Has this guy got sheer speed or what? He only just missed out on the stage victory by some 10 seconds. Blaise missed out by 23 seconds. Alfie Cox in 4th missed out by just 34 seconds. But the victor of the day was the guy who topped out at 189 kilometers an hour, the man from Brazil, the 30-year-old João Azevedo, the Brazilian. Azevedo flying the flag for Brazil at the top of today's stage, ahead of Fretenier, Blaise, Cox and Comer. Look how close the top 4 were. 34 seconds covering them. Overall, though, Dupre ahead of Comer, ahead of Cox in 3rd now, Esteve Puyol 4th, then Andy Caldicott, Azevedo, Sala, Blaise and Brucey. The winning Brazilian saying today was a long stage with 530 kilometers, very quick with a lot of dust. This morning there was no winds and the dust just hung in the air. We went through a river, the competitors had to stop. I had no problem through there. A good stage as we get closer to Dakar. David Fretenier, second today by just 10 seconds. This morning at the start, I was not very good. I made a mistake with my GPS code, so I had to turn around, go back to the bivouac, and put my numbers in again. After that, I went well. But I think about this small mistake. So anyway, all day I was having difficulty focusing all of the time with the events of the last few days.
La journée pendant la spéciale, ça s'est bien passé. C'est une petite erreur, manque de concentration. Avec les événements de ces derniers temps, on n'est pas très concentré, donc voilà.
It was good. It was mostly fast. We got up in the hills a little bit. Water crossing was a real new thing for me, but I made it through and everything worked out today. It was just a good day. Had a clean ride, no mistakes. I'm here.
Yes. So what's your feeling about the African race?
I like it. I'm ready to come back. I'll be back next year and hopefully do better. This year was just a learning experience, and I've been watching these guys and trying to ride with them, and I've learned a lot.
So the penultimate day of the Dakar 2005, from Tambacounda to Dakar itself. Just a sort of epilogue stage tomorrow, really one for the families and the sponsors tomorrow on the beach. But this is the last biggie, 108 road kilometres before the special stage of 225 kilometres, and then a ride through town, through the traffic, to Dakar itself. On the start line this morning, everybody lined up, keen to get to Dakar itself, keen to get out of a tent, keen to get into a hotel room for everybody. Event route director Patrick Sanaroli saying this is the last real stage, the last 200 and something kilometres of rallying, with about 100 kilometres of it being hard navigation. Always difficult to find your way without big reference point. There are trees all over the place, no mountains, for example, to use as a reference. They must really follow the road book today, and with still some pressure on the leaders, they cannot afford to make any mistakes.
Today at 220 kilometers. The road book does look a little bit tricky from kilometer 55 right up to CP1, which is nearly 80 kilometers. But you know, on the last stages like this, everybody is cool and we just want to get to Dakar. That's important.
The last real start for everybody. Cyril Dupre, the overall leader, coming into today's stage. Admittedly by those 3 minutes and 16 seconds after road penalties yesterday, but he knew what he had to do. This is the kind of stage that Dupre goes well on. A few years back, he won his first ever Dakar stage on a stage similar to this. It's technical, you've got to be in control of the bike, and you've got to be a good navigator. All the things that Dupre is. Well, Alfie Cox started the day in third position. Esteve Puyol not that far behind Cox, but it was Cox that actually had almost, right from the word go, a way of sacrificing his own third position to try and get Cyril Dupre to the finish. Cox holding back for Dupre on the stage, but in the end it mattered little. Cox ran ahead on the stage, waiting for Dupre to come through, and Dupre, though, keen to likewise get an advantage ahead of Mark Comer, with only a 3-minute advantage between the Frenchman and the Spaniard coming out of the bivouac this morning. Coming into one of the many villages, Cox and Dupre slowing down to the mandatory 50 km/h speed limit, and Dupre sportingly, gentlemanly, thanking Cox for his selflessness thinking. Dupre eventually was victorious on the stage. Only a 2-hour, 27-minute stage today. Dupre soon picking off another one of the big hitters, this time picking off Esteve Puyol. Puyol finishing in fourth today, some 2 minutes and 20 seconds back of Dupre, the victor today. So then, what about Mark Comer? The guy who started in second position today, the other Repsol KTM rider. Mark Comer still within a shout of overall victory if Dupre ran into trouble, but it was not helped by the fact that Comer got lost this morning early on the stage and was then caught by Dupre and Cox, and so the Spaniard sensibly thinking, well, that's it, I'm going to get second. Interestingly enough, it's going to be his first proper visit to Dakar for Mark Comer. He may have got to the end of the rally before, but that was in Egypt a couple of years ago. This is his first real visit to Dakar itself. Alain Duclos, second on today's stage, only 1 minute and 24 seconds back of Cyril Dupre. Absolutely the kind of stage that the number 26 rider likes. He got well into the flow, well into the swing of things, didn't make a single mistake once, and was rewarded with that second position. Here we are with Andy Caldicott from South Australia. Andy getting a third position on the stage today, only 1 minute and 54 seconds back of the stage victor, Cyril Dupre. Caldicott holding, though, still his sixth position in the overall standings. Just 47 minutes back of Cyril Dupre overall. A view of what it looked like on the stage and a view of what it looked like once he got to the finish. Here is a quick view of his teammate, David Schwartz, again from South Australia, but David, one of many to get lost on the stage today. The 225 kilometres, hardly the biggest ask of this year's Dakar Rally, but many people getting lost and many people looking up for the helicopter for, well, divine inspiration. Helen Walsh and David Schwartz asking each other which way was best. You may ask why these people get lost with GPS navigation. Well, it only gives you the direction. It doesn't tell you exactly where you are. It only is a tool for navigation, unlike, of course, many modern road cars that tell you exactly where you are with their GPS navigation. So it's not as easy as it looks sitting in front of the television at home. Let's now catch up with Amparo Uzina, one of the two ladies left in the rally, on two wheels that is. She says nothing is more important than arriving to the end of this stage. If you feel that, then nothing else is more important at all. Nothing else. You have to live with that impression. You have to feel that to understand what it's all about. There is nothing that compares to this feeling that I've got at the moment. Nothing is stronger than to live this adventure. The Dakar is the best adventure out there. Thank you so much to everybody, and I'm thinking of you, Carney and Mione. I'm sure that up there in heaven, you're still doing your own Dakar, looking down upon us. At the finish, though, first and second place, embracing after a very, very difficult Dakar. And likewise, the Gauloise KTM squad, united, the three of them all together, Brucey, Dupre and Cox. So, the victor to be on the 2005 Dakar Rally, Cyril Dupre, takes another stage victory ahead of Alain Duclos, Caldicott third, Puyol and Azevedo fourth and fifth respectively. Overall, Dupre nearly home and dry ahead of Comer, Cox on the podium, Esteve Puyol fourth, Bretigny's Yamaha in amongst the KTMs, Caldicott sixth, Azevedo, Sala, Chris Blaise as a rookie ahead of Brucey. Cyril Dupre saying, I think that we took the right decision this morning with Alfie. He waited for me so that he could protect my overall lead. But it was not easy to navigate on today's stage. We got lost a few times, but not really for long. The start of the stage was pure riding, and I found that I had a good feeling on the bike, which is good news. We saw the tracks going everywhere, left and right, but I remained focused on the road book, and I'm very, very happy to be here. Alan Duclos saying the type of stage that I like very much. Went well. Got second place, which is good news. Perfect stage. I never once got lost or even hesitated once in order to follow the right track. Real bush riding. I love that. I love that very much. Cohen was saying at first I didn't understand the team strategy from Gauloise, but on the other hand, it meant that my second place against Alfie would be guaranteed. In the end, I'm happy to be second. I've had a good rally, but the two accidents have overshadowed things. Those things are out of our hands now, and we have to look forward. Ludovine Puy is leading the ladies' motorbike class into Dakar this evening. And as a 21-year-old and as a rookie, what a performance. She says, my name is Ludovine Puy, 21, I live in Paris. And I'm part of the police force. I've done motocross, enduro, supermotard, but the Dakar is a dream for me. Things have been difficult for Ludovine, as you can imagine, in the middle of the dunes. I'd rather be better at home. I can get the bike up, but it's very hard, she says, in the dunes. I don't think that it was ever going to be so hard. Obviously, I'm a girl, not a guy, and when I get this bike stuck in the sand, I get in real trouble. But there's always a man somewhere to help her out. She said, when I got to Tchit, I was in the dunes for 2.5 hours at the same place. I said to myself that I had to get away from all of this. I didn't want to call the organisers. I didn't want to pull my distress beacon either. The peak of my helmet was broken on the very first stage, but I used it then as a shovel to get the sand out of the way. But eventually, Ludovine got into Tchit to a very, very warm round of applause. She certainly has now understood how strong she is and courageous she is to be in the Dakar at only 21 years old. Well done.
Ludivine, elle retire de ce Dakar qu'elle peut beaucoup encaisser physiquement, qu'elle a de la volonté, qu'elle persévère énormément. Et que ses limites sont très très loin, très loin.
Today's stage, really one for the sponsors and one for the families, but certainly one for the emotions. A short stage of some 31 kilometres around the Pink Lake, Lac Rose, not far out of central Dakar, the most westerly point of the African continent. Just after dawn this morning, everybody was prepared for the last few kilometres. Some were going to enjoy them, some were very thoughtful about it, but everybody was covered still with the grief of the loss of two riders, two of their own in this year's event. A moment's reflection. For the Gauloise KTM squad, loss of Fabrizio Mioni, whilst the Spanish had lost Jose Manuel Perez. The bikes went off 20 by 20 first thing this morning. It was every man for himself as Mick Extons from the UK sped along, the only British rider on two wheels to get to the finish in 2005. Then the next group of 20 were off, and the man from Australia, David Schwartz, decided to go for it, but unfortunately had a big off. He was lucky to get away without serious injury as he led motocross style Down the beachfront on Dakar, probably one of the most evocative rally raiding scenes in the history of rally raiding, full stop. Everybody was flat out, including the man from Holland, Fransen. A start number of 2:22, and yet he finished 5th on today's stage. What a result from him. Brewer, he went well on the beach with his Yamaha. He went well on the beach in Barcelona. He got another good result today. He finished in 4th position alongside the Pink Lake. Eric Verhoef, another Dutchman, making it 3 Dutchmen inside the top 5 today. Esteve Puyol, the man from Spain, nearly overshot the first corner. Well, he just took to the grass. Esteve Puyol, 2nd on today's stage, and 4th in the overall standings. Puyol probably coming into this rally as the Repsol KTM leader, but not coming out of it, because Puyol finished up in 4th position, less than 12 minutes back. But it was Mark Comer who clinched 2nd position overall come the end of this year's Dakar. But the victor of today's stage, the man from America, the rookie, Kellen Walsh. They're producing them well over there in California. And the youngster, still in his early 20s, being victorious on today's stage by just 52 seconds. Walsh eventually coming home, a little down the order, having lost time earlier in the rally. He finished in 22nd overall. Now we move on to the big boys. We're on board with the victor of this year's Dakar, Cyril Dupre, saying, "Hi everybody, I've just started this last stage of the Dakar, a very important day because we've got to pay homage to my friends who are unfortunately not here anymore. I think of them and their families. I kiss you all." Dupre took it relatively easy on the stage, just enjoying the emotions. He says, "I don't know why Thierry Sabine had this foolish idea to create this rally and to finish here at Lac Rose. Simply extraordinary. We wait all year long for this Lac Rose." We wait for it, we train for it in the gym, on the bike, on the motorbike, we talk about it over lunch, over dinner, everybody talks about it, and to win here is just wonderful. But getting to the finish and being with his teammate Jean Brucy, it was just too emotional for Dupre. He says, "Thank you." He says, "Thank you, thank you. I now understand why you were so important for Richard. It's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much." So it was Gaulois KTM at the head of the podium. Cyril Dupre being the victor ahead of Mark Comer in 2nd position. The leading production rider from France, David Castello. The winning girl, Ludovine Puy, at just 21 years old. And Antoine Morel, the lone, the only, the winning quad. Well done. Kellen Walsh for America being victorious on today's short stage, just ahead of Esteve Puyol, Eric Verhoef, Brewer and Fransen flying the flag for Holland. Overall though, it's Dupre who is the victor ahead of Mark Comer, Alfie Cox for South Africa in 3rd, Puyol and Cretigny 4th and 5th, Caldecott for Australia in 6th position, ahead of D'Azevedo, Sala, Chris Blaise and Jean Brucy. Cyril Dupre saying, "I've got the feeling that I've fulfilled my promise, and that's the most important thing for me today." What do I feel right now? Well, these last few days were a big fight to concentrate. But I've won this fight, I've won the rally, and I'm on the top step of the podium. It was a promise for Richard that we all made a few months ago. Of course, he's talking about Richard Sankt, who tragically lost his life at the end of September. David Frétinier, winning 450 rider, is saying, I'm very happy to be here. Very hard Dakar with happiness and pain, but finally a lot of joy here. There were many surprises with the competition, and that was the main thing for me. I've learned a great deal, and we continue to work with Yamaha on the bike, continuing the adventure that we started only 12 months ago. David Castello, the winning production bike rider, he says, brilliant, here I am. This morning I was a little worried before this 30-kilometer stage, but now it's done. How do you feel? I've done 3 Dakars, he says, 3 times at the finish, but this one to win my class and get 13th overall is fabulous. To ride a bike without changing anything on it from start to finish is very good. I've just got to look after the engine, make good, safe riding, fabulous adventure.
Gérer la mécanique, gérer le pilotage, c'était une aventure extraordinaire. D'avoir mis le quad à l'arrivée.
Morel winning quad, it's enormous for me. It makes the 6 months that I've worked on this machine very satisfying to get here, right in amongst all of the bikes. He finished
by Total Quartz Lubricant.
Number of competitors began the 2005 Dakar Rally in Barcelona. A total of 696 cars, motorbikes and trucks started the 9,000-kilometer race across 5 countries, which ended in the Senegalese capital. Belgian Stefan Petterhansel began the rally as favourite to defend his title in the 4-wheeled category. The 6-time Dakar motorcycle champion's 2004 victory for Mitsubishi saw him become only the 2nd man in history to complete the double. Day 2 of the rally saw competitors head south on a long 920-kilometre journey to Granada on an untimed liaison stage. Competitive action would resume with a 10-kilometre stage in Granada, with motorcycle competitors starting in reverse order from their results in Barcelona, and cars and trucks starting in order of their classification on the prologue. Thus, Yamaha rider David Frétinier would set off last. KTM rider Denis Compte had to withdraw from the event almost before it had begun, after the Frenchman had all his official documents, money and credit cards stolen from his service van. After the long road journey from Barcelona, it was back to business for competitors on a short 10-kilometre stage near Granada. Former World Rally champion Colin McRae won the section in his Nissan to claim the overall lead from Stage 1 winner Robbie Gordon. Petterhansel in his Mitsubishi finished 2nd fastest, just 6 seconds behind the Scotsman. Another former World Rally champion, Ari Vatanen of Finland, was a further 4 seconds adrift of the lead in his Nissan. Leader Robbie Gordon came 5th, 15 seconds behind McRae in his Volkswagen Touareg. In the bikes, Frétinier took his Yamaha to another win, beating the KTM of South African Alfie Cox, who had crashed on the beach in the prologue, injuring his shoulder. In the truck category, Dutchman Hans Becks and his DAF crew held on to the lead. After the stage, competitors travelled to Rabat in Morocco by ferry, ready to race the next morning. But the 4th stage got off to an inauspicious start when heavy fog forced the cancellation of the motorcycle stage, meaning safety helicopters couldn't take off. The field travelled to the end of the stage in formation, keeping David Frétinier in the lead, 2 seconds ahead of Cox. There was no such trouble for the cars, though, with the Volkswagen of NASCAR driver Robbie Gordon dominating the day. Gordon won the opening stage of the rally and the first African stage of the competition, a 123-kilometre special stage between Rabat and Agadir in Morocco, presenting few problems. The American clocked the best time of the day, 53 seconds quicker than the defending champion Petterhansel, although he did receive a little help from the locals at one point. Petterhansel, who finished 2nd in the 3rd stage behind former World Rally champion Colin McRae, remains in touch though, just 59 seconds behind Gordon in the overall classification. Bruno Sabi drove his Volkswagen into third place on the stage and third overall in a time of 1 hour, 15 minutes and 9 seconds, 68 seconds off the quickest time of the day. Overnight leader McRae slipped back to 10th place overall, but fellow rally veteran Juha Kankkunen moved up to 7th overall, 3.5 minutes behind Gordon. Gregoire de Mevius, who moved from BMW to Nissan this year, finished 7th on the stage and 8th overall. Following the cancelled motorcycle stage, the bike racers were keen to get to grips with the 5th stage, at 381 kilometres, the longest so far, with a border crossing between Morocco and Western Sahara. Spain's Mark Coma, riding a KTM, was looking for his first stage win of this year's competition, but he was upstaged at the last moment by teammate Andy Caldecott, who clocked 4 hours and 9 seconds to pip Coma by just 3 seconds and register Australia's first ever stage win. It was an impressive performance from Caldecott, who was forced out of last year's event through injury, but Coma took the overall lead with a time of 4 hours, 13 minutes and 13 seconds. Colin McRae recovered from a puncture in the 4th stage to dominate on 4 wheels and win by 6 minutes and 15 seconds over his nearest rival to claim the overall lead. Japan's Hiroshi Masuoka had a terrible day. The double winner of the Dakar suffered a series of problems, not the least of which was this puncture, and limped home in 124th place over 3 hours behind McRae. Another former winner was also dropping down the field. Stefan Petterhansel, the reigning champion on 4 wheels, finished 15th over 23 minutes off the pace, and as a result he dropped to 14th in the overall standings. It wasn't all doom and gloom for some of the Dakar's big names though. Germany's Jutta Kleinschmidt hauled her Volkswagen into 3rd place on the day, good enough to move the 2001 champion up to 4th place overall, just 3 seconds behind the former skiing legend Luc Alphand of France. Italian Fabrizio Mione started the 6th day in 6th place overall, but climbed 3 places thanks to a welcome stage victory ahead of his KTM teammate Paul Anders Ullersæter. The Norwegian had a little tumble in the soft desert sand, but was up again quickly to finish just 1 minute and 30 seconds behind Mione, and his good finish helped him climb up to 7th overall, 12 minutes and 37 seconds behind France's Cyril Dupre. The Frenchman finished 4th behind Mione, Ullersæter and South African Alfie Cox, but did enough to claim the overall lead from Spaniard Mark Coma. Dupre leads the Dakar in his KTM, just 35 seconds ahead of Coma, who finished 5th on the stage. Mione lies 3rd overall, a further minute and 16 seconds back. There was drama when 2 potential winners crashed out on the same day. Robbie Gordon's Dakar debut took a turn for the worse when he rolled his Volkswagen just after checkpoint 1. The American NASCAR driver, more used to turning left on banked ovals, lost valuable time with front brake and gearbox troubles. It was also a day to forget for Colin McRae, who was leading the rally going into the 6th stage, but crashed out near the end. McRae and his co-driver Tina Torner, partner of DTM champion Matthias Ekström, were said to be fine after a checkup.
Lots of places like this, it's full speed and you have to be very careful with the bumps. It didn't look so bad, but the sand was very soft at the bottom and the car dug in the sand and then flipped over.
Defending champion Petterhansel moved into the overall lead with victories on both stages 6 and 7. The Mitsubishi driver beat Nasser Al-Attiyah's BMW by over 25 minutes on the 660-kilometre and longest section of the event between Zuarat and Tichit. He claimed top spot from overnight leader Bruno Sabi after his Volkswagen Touareg was damaged and he lost nearly half an hour. Jutta Kleinschmidt clocked the 3rd fastest time to move up to 3rd overall, with Luc Alphand finishing 4th after losing 4 minutes stuck in camel grass and ending the day 2nd overall. Many cars suffered problems on the demanding 660-kilometre stretch of desert. Jean-Louis Schlesser lost a vital amount of time as he waited for assistance to fix the left rear wheel of his Ford, while 1997 Dakar winner Kenjiro Shinozuka retired from the rally having rolled his Nissan. A sandstorm of varying intensity made conditions difficult, with details difficult to determine, making high speed and navigations especially difficult in the treacherous conditions. Frenchman David Fratine won the bike stage on his Yamaha as Mark Coma regained the overall lead, despite finishing 4 minutes and 31 seconds adrift. Overnight leader Cyril Dupre finished third fastest, with Alfie Cox finishing fourth to share third place overall with Australia's Andy Caldecott. The competitors were facing a 538-kilometre stage across the desert the next day. But the 8th stage, which was expected to be the toughest route of the event, was cancelled as sandstorms made racing in the Mauritanian desert too hazardous. We'll bring you the rest of the Dakar Rally in next week's Drive.
Historic 10th overall victory. But the real winners are Mitsubishi drivers.
We pick up the second part of our coverage of the Dakar Rally as competitors plunged into the Mauritanian desert. Esteve Pujol won his first stage of the rally, but the day belonged to Fabrizio Mione. The 2001 and 2002 winner finished 1.5 minutes behind Pujol to take the overall lead by less than 3 minutes over Cyril Dupre. Former downhill skier Luc Alphand won his first stage to close the gap on four-wheel leader, teammate and reigning champion Stefan Petterhansel. Alphand came home in just under 5 hours to shave over 1.5 minutes off Petterhansel's lead, still over 20 minutes. But there were a few others that didn't fare so well on the 361 kilometres between Tijika and Attar. Nasser Salih Al Attiyah crashed, and the Qatari driver was looking set for an early end to his rally after a second place on one stage had put him fourth overall. South African Geniel de Villiers finished 7th on the stage but stayed 5th overall. Veteran Frenchman Bruno Sabi, who won the Dakar back in '93, had wheel problems with his Volkswagen Touareg and limped in 49th on the day. This slipped him down to 9th overall, almost 7 hours behind the leader.
Now, Bruno, try to put all the bolts, put the short one also there.
Jutta Kleinschmidt guided her Volkswagen into 4th place and 3rd overall. On the 10th stage, Italy's Fabrizio Mione came in 2nd on a loop starting and ending in Attar in Mauritania. But it was Cyril Dupre of France who won the stage, his first stage victory of the race, over 10 minutes ahead of Mione, who was followed by Isidre Esteve 12 minutes later. Dupre moved into the overall lead for the motorbike event ahead of double event winner Mione. But the day was marred by the news of the death of Spanish rider Jose Manuel Perez. He was injured earlier in the event and died at a hospital in Alicante in Spain. After an accident on the rally's 7th stage, surgeons had removed his spleen and kidney, but the 40-year-old developed a fever and died. In the cars section, Jutta Kleinschmidt maintained her 3rd place, half an hour off the pace. Alphand came home again in 2nd place, harrying his teammate and losing out by just 87 seconds. Stefan Petterhansel came out victorious, finishing the 483-kilometre leg in 5 hours, 22 minutes and 58 seconds. He remains the race's overall leader, with Alphand 21 minutes behind. At the first refuelling checkpoint on stage 11, Mione and Dupre were riding together, the two veterans sharing the navigating in the trackless desert. But it turned to tragedy as Fabrizio Mione crashed heavily 184 kilometres into the stage. Paramedics arrived by helicopter within 15 minutes, but Mione's heart had stopped as a result of the crash, and despite frantic efforts to revive him, the Italian died at the scene. Once back at the checkpoint over the Mali border, the competitors were told of the loss of one of the greatest characters in the Dakar Rally. Dupre, who had moved ahead of Mione before he crashed, was deeply affected. The organisers decided that because of the remoteness of the stage, the riders should continue on a shortened leg, and the section was won by Spaniard Mark Coma. Mione, known as the African because of his love for the region and its peoples, was racing in the Dakar for the 13th time and had said that this race would be his last.
We heard the news this morning.
After he fell, the medics unfortunately couldn't do anything to restart his heart. We couldn't do anything, and Fabrizio Mione passed away this morning.
Donc Fabrizio nous a quittés ce matin.
A ver, es muy difícil aceptar lo que está pasando, ¿no?
It's very difficult to accept what has happened. I believe it's not just bad luck. There is something. Several months ago it was Richard, yesterday Carney, and today Fabrizio. There is something other than bad luck. The rally is very dangerous. When I was a rider, as I left my home, I thought, will I return in 15 days? I never said that to my family, but I was aware of the danger and the risks. When you're in the rally, you never think of the danger. You think you are the fastest and the best.
El riesgo está ahí, ¿no?
È difficile parlare di Fabrizio.
It's very difficult to talk about Fabrizio. He was a very modest person with a very big heart and a talented rider. He loved Africa because he said that Africa gave him a great deal in return. He felt he could give even more to Africa. He was the major force with his hometown Castiglione in Florence in Italy behind the building of a school in Dakar. It was a project that at the beginning was only for a few children, but then he realized that these people needed more help because they have so much less than we have.
Married with 2 children, Fabrizio Mione won the Dakar twice, the Tunisian Rally 4 times, and the Rally of Egypt 5. In honour of Mione, the 12th stage was cancelled for the bikes and the field was airlifted from Kiffer in Mauritania to Bamako in Mali, ahead of the resumption of racing the next day. Camille de Villiers claimed his first stage win, covering the difficult 586-kilometre section in 7 hours and 21 minutes. Second was the Mitsubishi of Peter Hansel, who tightened his grip on first place overall with another consistent drive. Jutta Kleinschmidt couldn't build on her stage win of the previous day and finished 6th, to trail Peter Hansel by an hour and 18 minutes. It seems that only Luc Alphand can catch the reigning champion, but he conceded another 3 minutes to his teammate and trails by 23 minutes. Peter Hansel has won 4 times on a bike, and last year for Mitsubishi. In the truck competition, the Dutch-Belgian trio of Gerhard de Rooij, Tom Kolsul and Arno Slaats took the stage in their DAF, but they trail Russian overall leaders Ferdoz Kabirov, Adar Balayev and Andrei Mokiev in their Kamaz by over 11 hours, with their nearest challengers more than 2 hours in arrears. The rally continued with a 370-kilometre journey from Bamako to Kayes. Wearing black armbands, the 108 bike riders took off in the middle of the Bamako night on a 205-kilometre liaison to the start of the day's special stage. The first bikers started the stage just after sunrise. Cyril Dupre had to stop and repair a flattened exhaust. He lost time but was able to make up some of it, although the stage went to Andy Caldecott. The Australian posted his second stage win, crossing the line with 2 minutes 6 seconds lead on Fretenier and 3.5 minutes on American Chris Blaze. The overall lead still belongs to Dupre, over 16 minutes ahead of Mark Comer. Comer finished 9th on the day, while Dupre was 8th. Stage 14 took the remaining drivers and riders from Kayes in Mali to Tambacounda in Senegal. The 630-kilometre trek would include a treacherous river crossing that would test more than endurance and driving ability. Ari Vatanen, a 4-time Dakar winner, took the honours in the car section, his first stage win this year. Stefan Peter Hansel avoided a big troop of monkeys on the way to a cautious 8th place. He stays on target for overall victory with a 26-minute lead. Jutta Kleinschmidt, the first and only woman to have won the Dakar and a former motorcycle racer, crashed and lost time making repairs to her damaged power steering system. She eventually crossed the line in 42nd place, but remains 3rd in the overall standings. Interestingly, the diesel-powered VW crews don't wear the hot, flame-proof suits as the risk of fire is much lower. Brazilian Jean de Azevedo took the day's bike honours just 10 seconds ahead of David Fretenier, who moved to 5th in the overall standings. Cyril Dupre was 7th, 7 minutes off the pace, and remained at the top of the bike standings with a lead of 12 minutes and 16 seconds over Mark Comer, who's 2 minutes ahead of Alfie Cox. The 225-kilometre penultimate stage finished in Senegal's capital, Dakar. Mr. Pujol maintained his fourth place overall, finishing fourth as Cyril Dupre extended his advantage over Comer to 9 minutes and 45 seconds, clocking the fastest time on the stage. Dupre beat fellow Frenchman Alain Duclos by over a minute, with Andy Caldecott third. Jutta Kleinschmidt consolidated her overall third place as she ended up ninth ahead of the winner of the previous stage, Ari Vatanen. Second place went to veteran Bruno Sabi, bringing his Volkswagen Turbo Diesel home 57 seconds off the pace set by Nissan's South African driver Geniel de Villiers, who won the final racing stage in 2 hours and 21 minutes to consolidate his fourth place overall. Peter Hansel, who came in fifth, maintains the overall lead with a 27-minute advantage over Luc Alphand. Both drivers were careful not to damage their vehicles and took things relatively easily. The event covers 8,956 kilometres from Barcelona in Spain to Dakar in Senegal, including 5,431 kilometres of competitive special stages. The 16th and final display stage was run along the beach outside Dakar, and Peter Hansel again took it easy, setting off alongside Mitsubishi teammate Alphand. Peter Hansel merely had to complete the course to take the title, and the Frenchman crossed the finishing line in a time of 22 minutes and 9 seconds for 11th place on the stage. Co-driver Jean-Paul Cottret congratulated Peter Hansel on their win. Jutta Kleinschmidt, the only female driver to have ever won the Dakar Rally, finished the day in third place to claim third in the overall standings behind the impressive Alphand, who was driving in only his third Dakar. Peter Hansel's total time was 52 hours, 31 minutes and 39 seconds, adding a second car title to his two-wheeled trophies. The remaining bike riders paid a final tribute to Fabrizio Mione, who was the 22nd competitor to die during the Dakar in the event's 27-year history. Kellen Walsh of the USA took the stage victory in 17 minutes and 17 seconds. Spaniard Esteban Pujol finished the day second, ahead of Eric Verhoef of the Netherlands. Like Peter Hansel, Cyril Dupre carried a useful lead into the final day of the rally, and none of the leaders would risk failing to finish by taking any chances. Dupre finished the stage in 16th place, but won the overall title by more than 9 minutes from Mark Comer and Alfie Cox, himself just 22 seconds ahead of Pujol.